Hello and welcome to the Purple Couch. And now let us speak from the Purple Couch. Come to the Purple Couch. Yes, it's time that we are speaking from the Purple Couch. And we want you to be there or be with. Again, we welcome you back to the Purple Couch. We hope that this show will be very informative and educational. What we're going to do right now is put up a trigger warning based on the subject matter of this video. Stop. This is a trigger alert. Content warning. This video and discussion contains descriptive information about DV. So at this moment, if you need to click off, we do understand, but we just want you to be aware. As we continue to get some other things out of the way, let's do some more housekeeping and let's share again. This is our fair use copyright notice. Just to let you know, if there are some issues or concerns about this video or our position on the fair use defense, please contact us at 202-607-8195 so we can discuss amicably, and we thank you. Now let's go over some statistics, and then I will be introducing, we'll give you a little background on who will be participating in this video. Let's bring up some statistics. On average, nearly 20 people per minute are physically abused by an intimate partner in the United States. During 1 year, that equates to more than 10 million women and men. 1 in 4 women and 1 in 9 men experience severe intimate partner physical violence. Intimate partner contact, actual violence, we can't say that word, and or intimate partner stalking with impacts such as injury, fearfulness, post-traumatic stress disorder, use of victim services, and contraction of STDs. 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men have experienced some form of physical violence by an intimate partner. This includes a range of behaviors from slapping, shoving, pushing, and in some cases might not be considered DV. 1 in 7 women and 1 in 25 men have been injured by an intimate partner. 1 in 10 women have actually been AR'd by an intimate partner. 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men have been victims of severe physical violence, which could be beating, burning, strangling by an intimate partner in their lifetime. 1 in 7 women and 1 in 18 men have been stalked by an intimate partner during their lifetime to the point in which they felt very fearful or believed that they or someone close to them would be harmed or transitioned. On a typical day, there are more than 20,000 phone calls placed to the DV hotlines nationwide. The presence of the tool used to shoot in a DV situation increases the risk of transitioning someone by 500%. Intimate partner violence accounts for 15% of all violent crimes. Women between the ages of 18 and 24 are most commonly abused by an intimate partner. 19% of domestic violence involves DV. I need to catch myself. Strike DV involves some type of weapon. Domestic victimization is correlated with a higher rate of depression and harming oneself, and only 34% of people who are injured by intimate partners receive medical care for their injuries, because a lot of them do not even report it. So now that we have that information, let me share who will be on this panel. The first one that will share their story is a young lady. She is a mother and she has endured abuse on so many levels from her abuser. Also, we will have Dr. Michelle Craig. She attended American University where she received her degree in biology. She went to Howard University Medical School. She's a family practitioner with over 30 years of experience. She currently provides care and services as the medical director at Platinum Care in Washington, D.C. She is a mother of three grown adults, and she also cares for her mom. And not only is she a DV survivor, but she is also a breast cancer victor. We also have Mr. Tory Brooks, who is married and was the father of five daughters. Unfortunately, it is now only four daughters because he lost his oldest daughter to DV. He started his foundation, the Taurus Brooks DV Foundation, which was started after the loss of his daughter, but it also honors his mother and his father, who also did not survive DV. We will have Officer Carol D. Adams. She has worked in law enforcement for 31 years. She started her career with the Richmond Sheriff's Department, where she served 7 years prior to joining the Richmond, Virginia Police Department, where she has worked for 24 years. In that capacity, she has served in the Community Youth Interventions Division, where she was responsible for establishing and maintaining community partnerships, crime prevention, education, and many other outreach. She now serves in the role special projects centered around community problem solving, focusing on engagement initiatives. Now I will bring up Mr. Brooks. We'll bring
Yes,
our young lady. How are you today?
fine, thank you.
Okay. And you?
I'm doing well. You can say my name.
Okay, great, great. I just want you to feel comfortable.
Awesome. Thank you.
It's wonderful seeing you, Velvet. Wonderful seeing you, Taurus. We have two
Thank
other
you.
people waiting for. I don't know where they are, but for right now, we just want to welcome you to the platform, and
Thank you.
we thank you for taking the time out to actually share, because this is a major issue that we need to deal with, and especially now that we have been kind of like isolated for these last 2 years, kind of like quarantine. A lot more has occurred, and so we just need to, discuss this and kind of bring this to the forefront. And I think it's always great for people to share so it can help someone else, especially when you have survived it. Now, Velvet, um, I'm going to let you go first, and you are a remarkable young mother and young lady. You are, I have just seen you blossom. You have grown into this wonderful woman, and I'm so very proud of you. Now, we can start by you sharing your story. I mean, how did you meet your abuser?
I'll start off by saying this because that compliment you gave me, I really appreciate that. Um, After everything was said and done, after I met my abuser, I don't want to say that he destroyed my life because he really didn't destroy it, right?
Mhm.
He
Right.
destroyed certain relationships, yeah. But I get a lot of compliments where people say, oh my gosh, I'm loving the woman you're turning into.
Mhm.
And that is like, for me personally, I laugh when I hear that in my head because when people go through DV,
Mhm.
you never really realize that they are actually good people.
Right.
They have so many great qualities about themselves. They just are never able to express that because of the abuse. And so, underneath all of the trauma was that woman that you see today.
Mm.
And if I would have never made the decision that I did because of my children, I don't
Mhm.
know where I would be in life.
Wow.
Needless to say, how I met my abuser was through Facebook.
Mhm.
My era and my generation, a lot of kids are on social media. They all have YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. They all have all of these platforms. So we all, tune into that. And a big wave in this generation also is learning spirituality. But
Mhm.
see, for me personally, this is my own opinion. I feel like, especially after what I went through, people get spirituality and religion confused. So these children are practicing demonic rituals and demonic lifestyle behaviors that's hindering them from actually being able to evolve
Mhm.
spiritually, or what we would like to call it as God, under God's law.
Right.
And so when I met the abuser on Facebook, he just was saying how we were going to evolve spiritually, how he was going to give us the information to evolve, and how we were going to live this lifestyle and change the world and have better humans and be one with nature and eat healthier and have gardens and make our own clothes and harness our own food and our own water and take care of ourselves, be in a sense of a self sustainability. And because of who I naturally am, I went to Tuskegee University, and I majored in agriculture slash horticulture. So I was
Mhm.
already into the natural way of life,
Right.
wanting to heal myself and stuff like that. So my mistake by me being so young, my abuser, he targets people who are very young minded, don't
Mhm.
have a lot of experience when it comes to the real world and being sociable and stuff. And so it never dawned on me to get to know the person, like make sure that the person is a good person, look up videos, Google them. Now
Right.
that I'm older,
Mhm.
that is an aspect, but when I was younger, I was rosy eyed, like everybody's not like seeing the benefits of everybody and seeing everybody's potential and going off that, moving, making decisions off of that. And
Right.
so long story short, I was with my abuser for 3 years, and I actually left. I escaped actually 3 times from him. Actually, I think it was 3 times. Yeah,
Mhm.
I escaped 3 times, and I willingly went back more than 4 times, I believe, because I would like run out the house and run away, and then I would go
Mhm.
back, multiple times. But me physically escaping,
Mhm.
every story was different. He did try to like keep me hostage, and he has like other people that surrounds him, so he uses them as pawns and try to make the world believe that those people can leave at any time, and that he doesn't have any real value in his mind for some other people. So but when it came to me, he had a high value in his mind for me, like I was a commodity to him, so he targeted me. He didn't treat me how he treated the other people. He kept me hostage. He stole all my documents. He used my child against me. He did everything that he could to, keep me with him. And so, yeah, I experienced a great amount of physical abuse, emotional, spiritually, you name it, mentally, verbally. So that's how I met him initially. And then
Right.
as I met my abuser in particularly, when I met him, he actually dragged me through the entire South America continent. And he also took me to like other places within the United States too. So just imagine, and almost like being trafficked.
Mm.
You
Wow.
know, I was forced to have I don't even I don't want to say the wrong word, but physical intimate relations with people that I didn't want to, against
Mhm.
my will, with even with him on multiple occasions. You know, and it was a situation where he pretended to be somebody, but then like underneath the surface he was this evil person, and it wasn't making sense to me until time went on and I started putting two and two together, and I started noticing that in a healthy relationship you don't fight
Mhm.
like that. You don't
Right.
hit your spouse, you don't do that. So yeah, I just made a decision to take myself out of it completely. And the last time I escaped was in last November 2021, and I planned my escape for 3 months.
Okay.
Yes.
And
Mm.
now, can you tell us what was that instance of abuse that really shook you up to say, I must leave?
Mm, mm. So it actually was a series of events that took place. So during my last escape, during the 3 months, I had to. It was so much physical abuse that I had to do exactly what he wanted me to do in order to steal my passports, because we were in another country and I couldn't just leave, and I would be stranded. So I had to play him at his own game. So I had to manipulate him. Craziest situation I've ever been in my entire life. I had to manipulate him in order to escape. And so I basically just did everything he wanted me to do. I even did things that was outside of my character to be able to
Mm.
get my passport and for me and my child. So we he basically drugged me from, I believe that was Las Vegas, to back to Mexico in Central America, and he it was forcing me to be in relationship with other women. He considers himself to be polygamous, so he forced me to be in relationships with women that I didn't want to be with, and he just kept telling me that he'll kill me and he'll throw me in the woods, and he'll just tell social media that I ran away and no one knows what happened to me and I just left the baby. And he
Mm.
was also threatening other women in his little camp or whatever. He was threatening them too to kill them and just throw their bodies away and let social media know. And he was like really serious with it, because he started drinking and smoking. It was a lot of stuff that he was doing behind the scenes that a lot of people didn't know, that was invoking the spirit to like come forth even more. So he dragged us all into this Airbnb. He had two separate Airbnbs. He have a cult, so he have women and men. He have about 7 women and like 6 men or something like that. If I'm wrong or whatever, it's like 6 women or 5 men or whatever the case. Needless to say, he put us in two separate Airbnbs, women in one and men in one. And in the women's one, he literally did anything he wanted sexually with us. He just did whatever he wanted. Kids there and all, pregnant women from for other men and everything. Like women were in relationships with other men in his camp, and he was still having intercourse with them and like making us all try to be his wives. And so I was like, okay, that's mad weird. Like, I don't want to do this. So, he had another incident that happened in that time span where he told the world and even told us that the reason why he have all of the wives is because he wants to mate with them and impregnate them so that he can mate his children, because he doesn't want his children to be in the society that we all coexist in. Like, he wants to be separate from the world. He seriously, in his mind, believed that he's the Messiah, like the second coming of Christ, and everybody's gonna have to bow down to him and all of this stuff. So, that was the straw. Like, that was the last straw. And then once I started doing like absolutely everything he wanted me to do, he started putting me on phone calls with women, random women, to have intercourse with them. He would get my pictures. Like, he would force me to take pictures, like nude pictures and like sexual videos and stuff, and he would send them to thousands of people without me knowing. And it wasn't until I opened up his phone to see what he was doing, and it was videos and pictures of me. And I was like, oh, wow. Like, so Amongst some other things, but they're not coming to me readily. But yeah, that's like that was the two main things that really like sealed the deal for me.
Okay, and the abuse. When was the last time that he really physically abused you? That
Mm.
was very devastating.
Well, the I wouldn't say the last time, but but one time that was very devastating for me. He put me he took all of these people, it was about 15, almost 20 people. He made them make a circle around me. He made a woman grab my child. My child was 1 years old. He made a woman grab my child and hold her on the outside of this circle, and he beat me inside that circle for about an hour. And everybody was like, you need to submit to him and this and that. And I was like, he's trying to take my soul. I'm not submitting to him. Absolutely not. I'm a child of God. And so I let him beat me. Period. And I did not get up. I did not look him in the face. I did not none of that. I was so my head was hurting so bad that I couldn't even look at the light. Like the light could be on and my eyes could be closed and I could have my hand over my eyes and it still hurted. To the point where he was like, "Do you want me to take you to the hospital?" And I was like, I told him no, because people who go through DV, it don't register in that moment that they need to tell somebody that they need to go to the hospital. So I declined, and yeah, when I declined, I realized that he was manipulating me.
Wow, wow. And so, how did you finally um, get all your paperwork and leave?
So, within the 3 month times, come on, Ellie, let's go use the potty. Let's go. Come on. The During the 3 month time span, I was able to, like, I would do little stuff like act like I'm really friendly and I'm actually vibing with what's all going on. And I would go in the back room, like when he was in the living room, I would go in the back room and I would pack my clothes little by little. And the last night that I knew I had an opportunity, the night I knew the next morning I was gonna leave, that's when I actually took my passports from wherever they were and shoved them in my bag. And then when I woke up the next morning, everybody was like really sleep because he had drunk a whole bottle of Hennessy, which I made sure of. And I made sure the girls was drunk and high. And I just made sure everybody was toe up. And I made a nice pallet. Come on, come on. I made a nice pallet on the floor because he likes all of us to sleep together. So I made everybody feel comfortable, and then I picked my bags up and I put them outside, and I went back for my child, and I picked my bags up and I kept walking and I never looked back.
Wow. And can you share with us your age?
I am currently 24. I met him when I was 19, and I moved with him when I was 20.
Wow. Wow. I mean, that's a lot of strength. I mean, you endured a lot. And also because a lot of it also was on social media. So you,
And all of it was social media, my
yeah,
whole entire life
wow.
since that point.
Wow. And you have a beautiful daughter. And you all, did you all officially get married?
We did get married. We did. The way that we got married was by force. So during that 3 month time span when I was planning my escape, he knew that I wanted to leave, and he solidified the marriage because he wanted to stay tied to me. He believes that he owns me. Like I told you, he holds me to a very great value in his mind. So he targets me like no other. Like so when we actually got married, he always had been against it. He always had this philosophy that he doesn't want to be underneath the jurisdiction of the United States, and he doesn't need permission to get married from another man and all of this stuff. So when he told me about getting married, I tried to use his information on him. I was like, wait, what about the government? What about this? What about that? Like, no, like I don't want to get married. And so I guess he felt that, and he was like, what, you don't want to get married to me? And so then I had to like finesse that situation because I didn't want to get beat. Ellie, be still. Ellie, no, you are fine. Come on, if you're gonna wash your hands, I need you to get up here and wash your hands. Wash, wash.
And she's a mommy, and Ellie is. is a beautiful daughter that they have.
Yeah, so she he in that time span, he he was like, "No, we're getting married." He had to marry me so that he can feel like he trapped me. So he actually took me and four, I think it was three other women, and he actually married them to three other men that was in the camp. So he had like this ceremony where like 4 or 5 couples was getting married at one time. But I personally feel like he only did that because he didn't want to move in the United States. He had been getting thrown out of Central America for the last 2 years. So when he
Wow.
came back to the United States, he had to use alibis so that if he ever got jammed up with the police, because everybody on social media reports him, he could say, "No, she's married to him. She's married to him. She's married to me," to clean
Right.
up, you know. But those women are still married to those men, and they are all still in the camp and sleeping with the husband that I'm supposed to be married to, like
Wow.
literally. But yeah, that was
Wow.
something that I didn't want to happen, but I had to do it in order to get away. Like,
Right.
so now I'm in the process of I am in the process of getting a divorce, but that also takes time, especially from state to state.
Right. And now also you did your dad, and rest his soul, Pop Marquez. He was a wonderful man. He did fight for you. He never gave up.
No, he didn't. My dad was there when I absolutely needed him, and that I could never forget ever. It doesn't matter because before that moment, I was so bitter. Like
Hmm.
my family never heard from me. Like that's how I felt. And when my dad showed up for me, I even now to this day, like I still can't get that out of my head. It doesn't matter if it was like I don't care what it was for. I don't care what his intent was. The only thing that's reigning truth to me is that he was there in the moments that I absolutely needed him. He was there. Period.
Definitely. Definitely. Now, how do you feel that all of this has affected Ellie, your daughter?
Sometimes I get disappointed in myself in a way for continuing to make the decision to keep her around that. I never am disappointed with the fact that I have her because I was in agreement to having a child at the time, you know. But my own disappointment came into like me continuing to like go back and forth. But I realized that the reason why I was doing that was because I wasn't realizing that he was an actual lunatic, like that never registered to me for some reason. And so but now I feel absolutely amazing about my daughter and our relationship. Like he really tried to do a number between me and her. So I did have some issues in the first 2 years of her life. Like he wanted her to disrespect me. He didn't want her to have no type of regard for me. So he tried to make other women take care of her, and then that created an anxiety for her, like like stress and anxiety away from the mom. But
Right.
now that I'm in my own space and I've been having her consistently for a year now and some months, I our relationship has gotten way better, and I'm glad that she's younger because I can turn a lot around. And
Right.
yeah, she's a bright individual. I
Yes.
teach her manners. I teach her how to be respectful and polite, and I just keep going, and I'm not stopping. And I pray a lot.
Yes, and she is adorable in her little voice, and she is so respectful. And I like, again, just seeing your life. This is just awesome. I'm just so proud of you. And Mr. Brooks, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, Bear, but I'm so proud of you. Your courage, your drive, and you really do. You have the experience to raise your daughter totally different based on your experience. And I encourage you to do that. To continue to be open with her and let her know what really happened, so she know what to expect when her time comes to meet a guy. So my head's off to you. Statistics say you shouldn't have made it, but you're still here, and we thank you for that.
Yes. Yes.
Man,
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Mhm.
Yes. Now, Dr. Craig, we did give a little brief bio of you. And Velvet, would you mind just staying around because we may have some questions?
Yeah, I absolutely
Okay,
am.
thank you so much. Okay, Dr. Craig, would you mind sharing your story? Dr. Craig, does she know that she's still muted? Let me try to. Hello, Dr. Craig. Calling
Your
Dr.
head moving.
Craig. Dr. Craig.
So see,
Okay,
if
let
you
me
call
check.
me one more time, I was trying to unmute my mic, but I can't see the cursor. It's all over the place.
Okay.
The one at work I have it's black, so I can see it. But that little white one, I didn't know where it was. That was just I was like, I'm trying to unmute and I can't find the cursor. Excuse me. Hey everybody.
How you doing?
I'm fine. How you doing?
Wonderful.
So was that Velvet that just finished talking?
Yes.
Good God.
Yeah.
Velvet.
Your
I
story.
I I, I just like Mr. Brick said, she should not have survived that.
No,
I mean, the
no.
fact that she was in another country. Oh, I mean, she didn't just have to get away from him. She had to get her passport back, and she had to be smart enough to get it back without him catching on. And a lot of times they catch you when you pack. Like I don't know where she put her stuff, so he didn't find it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Because it would have been over if he had
Yes.
found her
Yeah.
packed suitcase.
Yeah.
He would have killed her for sure. You
Yes.
know,
Hmm.
thinking that.
Yes.
Yeah, I just think that whole thing, her escape, because that's what she did.
She
Her
escaped.
Yeah.
she escaped.
Yeah.
And
She
Hey,
she
did.
she has a major
oh
call
my
on her life,
god! Oh my
which
god!
Yeah.
I know for certain.
I can't. And I know I'm Velvet. I just think that you're an amazing person. And the other thing is, Velvet has to have a relationship with God because there's no way
No way.
that she would. You know what I mean? There is no way that that young lady, that young woman, would have been smart enough, finessed him enough, kept sane without falling apart, and getting her and her daughter out. She wasn't just getting herself out; she had to get her baby out too. I'm just in awe. Like I'm just. I heard of some abuse, but I ain't never heard of nothing like that.
Yeah.
I had to, by the grace of God, I had to get a protective order against him because he was like really harassing me.
Uh huh.
I had to fly all the way to Puerto Rico. I was pregnant. I was 2 months pregnant with my 2-year-old. Doing all of that, everybody spoke Spanish. I didn't speak no English, and I still was able to get the court to rule me, 3 months of a protective order against him.
Mm-mm.
Praise God.
Praise God. That's phenomenal. That just
Hmm.
encouraged me and inspired me all over again. You know what I mean? But before I talk, I want to ask Velvet this. Velvet, I am going to be 61 next week, right? And I'm still real standoffish, like when it comes to relationships. You know, because of the abuse, because of not being able to trust somebody that I thought I could trust, and not being able to read people. I keep thinking that I should be able to. You know, I should know when somebody is ain't right. And I don't. And so at the age of 60, I'm still I like to go out, but I like to go out in groups. You know what I mean? Like I after all this time, I'm still not really feeling like a relationship, and I want to know how did you move like forward, like and you put that behind you. I can put that behind me, but I'm having a hard time trusting who I think I trust. You know what I mean?
So I started having issues with that, but then I realized that if I lived my life in fear, I would never get to the opportunities and the blessings that lie ahead.
Preach, Velvet. And Velvet,
Because
I know
I
that
have a
too, but I'm still scared.
but listen, I have a vision. I have a vision for my life. And if somebody is standing in the way of that vision, the only thing that I have to do is have faith and trust in God and the fact that He's going to remove that off of my path because I don't deserve that.
You're right.
If I run into the obstacle, all the thing I have to do
Hmm.
is do everything with love and in love. Whatever that person does, that's on them. They're gonna reap the benefits of whatever lifestyle that they create for themselves, but that's not gonna be mine. Cause when they fade
That's
away,
good.
once they do what they do, I'm gonna move past them. I'm gonna still elevate past them, and they're gonna be reaping the karma. They could do whatever they want to me, but they can never destroy the spirit and the spirit of faith that I have. When it comes to knowing that God is gonna fight all of my battles,
Praise
God
God.
has fighting every single one of my battles. I didn't have to go out my way to do nothing.
That's
Right.
I
that's
gave it to
that's
God.
that's word. That sister just quoted word right back to me. So I need to grow up
The only reason
and
why
get
we
over it.
stay in fear, the only reason why we stay in fear, for me personally, the only reason why I stay in fear is because I don't know what's on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And see, that's a,
Only if I don't have a vision though. If I don't
That's
have a
the thing.
vision,
She has a vision. Yeah. Yeah.
if I don't have a vision, if it's not the vision that like I pray for the vision that I have. I told God, put the purpose in front of me that you want me to walk on. I want to walk in your purpose that you have for me, not mine, because I don't desire anything from this world. Nothing. I want to do your work. I want to do what you want me to
Amen.
do.
Amen.
And
Amen.
it came to life, and I had to go through things for that to come to life, but I was still faithful through the whole process, and it's just working itself out. Like
All right.
my so-called enemies, frenemies, whatever, they literally fade away like they never existed,
Mm.
and I love them still.
yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the Christ in you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't Cecilia Hill. Where do you want me to start? Because like I'm just so in awe of of of, of Velvet. I'm just like I can't even. I mean, the reason for me to be on this Zoom is because I needed to hear from her because I've been kind of a little stagnated in like her. I know what my Well, I don't. I know what I am. I know I'm an encourager. That's what I am. I do it. I do it well. But where I'm supposed to go with that, you know, like, am I supposed to be encouraging people on a large scale? Am I supposed to be lecturing? Because I do it with my patients one on one, and I love doing it, and I know that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. But I'm kind of stuck. Like, where am I supposed to go from here? So I'm going to ask for a vision too. So where do you want me to start? See, I can't hear you.
Yeah, I'm muted. Duh.
Okay, okay.
How did you meet your abuser?
Oh, okay. We went to high school together. I'm a military brat. So I started school in the Philippines. I started kindergarten in the Philippines. And then uh my dad they sent him overseas to Vietnam and Cambodia. We thought he was in Thailand, and I went to stay with my grandmother. Me, my mother, my brother stayed with my grandmother. So I was in Brooklyn, New York at PS 138. And then when my dad came back, we went to McGuire Air Force Base, New Jersey for 3 years. And then we went to Frankfurt, Germany. That's where I did middle school. And my dad finished when I was in middle school at Frankfurt American Junior High School. So his last assignment was at the Pentagon. And when he came back here to DC, I finished middle school at Hart Junior High School. And then because I always knew I wanted to go into medicine, I was in Ballou Science Math program. He wasn't My ex wasn't in the science math program, but he was the most eligible football player at Ballou the year that I was there. And I my oldest brother and him were friends because they played on the football team together. So I was always around him because my brother played football. The funny thing about it is I had no interest in him at all whatsoever in high school. I was a nerd. All I worried about was its academic, and like I was a real nerd. And we started the gospel choir at Ballou and all of that stuff. But it was strange. 5 years after we graduated from high school, I was downtown shopping. I was on 10th and Pennsylvania Avenue waiting for the bus. And he yelled across the street, Michelle Gaskins. And I looked up and he was standing in the middle of the street saluting me, right? Weird. That's weird. And so I was like, what was that about? And he said, you was the salutatorian of our class, wasn't you? I was like, yeah. He said, so I was just saluting you. He said, you can't take a joke. You don't have a sense of humor. You are a nerd. So for somebody who's trying to impress you, wow, he didn't do very well. He told me I was a nerd. So that was 5 years after we graduated from Ballou. And that same day, he told me that he had accepted Christ as his personal savior because they always called me the choir girl when I was at Ballou. Church girl or choir girl. That was my nickname. I was church girl, choir girl, or my other nickname at Ballou was Ice Cube because I used to have glasses that was thicker than Coke bottles. I don't think met nobody with no joints as thick as mine was. I had the thickest glasses, and so my brother started calling me Ice Cube, and they put on. They started calling me.
But Dr. Craig, do you mind if I just do you remember Leon's joke?
What was his joke?
Leon Gowan.
No.
And this is all fun and just because she know I love her. You don't remember when he said that your glasses were so thick you look like a frog looking through ice?
Yes, yes. That's why my brothers call me Ice Cube. Ice Cube. And they used to say, what's mom and daddy doing upstairs? And I say, I don't know. And they say, you got x-ray vision, just look up there and tell me what they doing. They used to wear me out, y'all, with the eye jokes. So anyway, choir girl and church girl was what everybody called me. So when my ex, his nickname was Big Will. That was his football nickname, Big Will. For a long time, I didn't even know what his name was because everybody called him Big Will. That's what they called him. And so when he got saved, when he accepted Christ, the first person he wanted to tell was me. And so he told me that was 5 years out, right? And he actually went to church with me. And then he disappeared. He is an he is an auditor. He audits for the Federal Energy and Regulatory Commission. And so anyway, every time I talked to him, he was in another state doing an audit someplace. But 10 years, we had a 10-year high school reunion. That's how we got together. At our 10-year high school reunion, he made up his mind that he wanted to marry me. And he would say stuff like, if we got together, he said, we could build a dynasty. He said, you're a doctor and I'm an accountant. He said, we grew up in Southeast DC. He said, we could change the world. And so his whole thing, it wasn't so much like I'm in love with you. It was like a partnership. Like we could do this. We two little black kids that came out of Southeast DC who they said wasn't going to be nothing, and he said, if we get together, we can really do something big. So we did get together. I saw him at my 10-year high school reunion, and this is how he asked me if I wanted to be his girl. He said, I'm gonna move back here in a few months. And he said, when I get back, if I haven't hooked up with nobody and you ain't hooked up with nobody, what you think about me and you hooking up? And I laughed. I laughed in his face, and his whole expression changed like that wasn't meant to be funny. And so I was like, you're serious? Like he was serious, and he got mad and he walked away. So I thought, if there was a chance, I just blew that because he was serious and I laughed. About 3 months later, he was doing an audit in Mississippi. And he called me and told me that he moved and he just wanted to give me his new number, but he moved to, and tell me that he moved. And then he asked again, he said, when is the next time you singing? And I said, I got to sing at something at the hospital. I was at Howard. That's where I went to medical school. That's where I was doing my residency. And he said, when? And so I told him when. And do you know he showed up? So I'm singing. They introduced me. Now we have a selection by Dr. Michelle Gaskins. And so I'm sitting there and they playing the piano. And it's an event for seniors. So it's a lot of elderly people sitting there. And so when you stand there, your eyes pan the audience. And then all of a sudden I saw him. And I did not come in on time. I just totally lost. Like, what is he? He was in Cincinnati, Ohio at that time when he came down there. So he was just moving all over the place, doing audits all over the place. But we met in high school. We graduated in the class of 1979 from Ballou. I was in the science math curriculum and he was in the regular curriculum. So I didn't really see him except at football. You know, I would go to my brother's football games. So it was just like that. It was just like he asked me, and I was like, okay, why not? I was 29 years old, and you know, you be thinking, I'm 29. Maybe it's time for me to do something, you know, because my clock is ticking, you know. And he was like the most popular dude in the school. But I mean, there was really no, you know what I mean? No, it was like both of us decided, okay, let's do it. You know, that was crazy. And that's how I met him in high school. Cecilia.
Saying that I am muted. Duh.
Yes, you.
Okay, so soon thereafter, you all got married. So did
Uh-huh.
you see any signs
Whew.
um before you got married?
Listen to me. Listen to me. The signs are always there. And in
That's right.
retrospect, we always can go right back and talk about them. But I don't know why we choose not to see them or not to listen to that conscience when it's telling you, listen, y'all, that was August. Our reunion was in August. We got married exactly a year from then. We got married the same day in August as our reunion the following year. But before we got married, remember I was a resident. I was a resident at Howard. And so they I got my vacation whenever they said I could have my vacation. I was in the intensive care unit at the time and they gave me my little 2 week break. So he was in Cincinnati. He sent me a ticket. I flew to Cincinnati. I came back with my ring. I came back with my engagement ring and my wedding band. And he bought me this herringbone necklace. And we put the wedding band on the herringbone necklace, and I wore it around my neck, and I kept that down my shirt until our wedding in August. So this was in December, and let me tell you, when I tell you a sign, this is crazy, and I don't know, it's crazy. So he was supposed to come back home. FERC was supposed to relocate him here in July. Our wedding was August, the schedule August the 19th. You know, invitations had gone out, the fittings and all. I mean, big blown up wedding. And his job actually sent him back here the weekend of President's Day. That's in February, right? He wasn't supposed to move back to DC until July, and then the wedding was in August, but he came back in February. So we went shopping and got furniture and stuff. And then he said, so when you gonna move in? And I said, when we get married, right? Oh my God. That dude called me names. It was like, what the? You a baby? Were you scared what your parents gonna say? And I said, no, that's the values that I have. I want God to bless our relationship, and I think He will if we do it by the book. So I said, I'm not gonna move in with you until I marry you. And so he was livid, livid, and his exact words was nobody. And he said, I mean nobody. I was sitting in my car getting ready to go home, and he wanted me to come back in to the apartment. He said, nobody gives me an MF ultimatum. And he reached in my shirt, snatched the herringbone that I had the wedding band on. He just snatched it off my neck and he threw it. And it went way down the street somewhere. He lived on Mount View Street in Southeast, and I was lived on Martin Luther King Avenue with my parents. And so, I mean, can you imagine, like, nothing like that had happened before? I never saw him blow up before, but he snatched the necklace off my neck and hurled it, like, just right. And he said, nobody gives me an MF ultimatum. And then he walked away, and I was sitting there shaking, like, what the hell just happened? Like,
Hmm.
what just happened? Right. And I didn't know what to do. So after I stopped shaking, I drove home. And I didn't say nothing to my parents about it. I didn't say nothing. I just kept going to work and stuff. Like, I didn't know what to do. And so about a week or maybe a week or two had passed by. Hadn't talked to him, hadn't seen him. I was just like, in my mind, I was like, so is it over? Like, but I just kept going to work and I didn't talk about it. In about 2 weeks, I got a phone call. And when I answered the phone, it was him. And he said, "Whatever you do, don't hang up." He said, "Allow me to apologize. And then if you want to hang up, you can hang up." And he said, "I overreacted." Okay? This is what he said. I overreacted. And I'm I'm making a point of saying that because every time I was abused and the apology came later, he would always say, "I overreacted. You know I love you. I just overreacted." But that was the first time he ever said it to me before we got married. Right? He threw, and you know why it took 2 weeks for him to call me back? He said him and his nephew went outside on Mount View Street with flashlights that night and every night looking for that ring. All that money he paid for that ring. And they found it.
Mm,
They found it in about a week and a half. And so when he called me, he told me don't hang up. He found the ring and he wanted to put it back on my finger. And he said, and I swear to you, he said, "I swear to you, it'll never happen again. I just overreacted." I was married to him for 14 years and he overreacted a lot in those 14
mm,
years. But that was a sure sign. I shouldn't come on, y'all. I mean,
yeah.
that wasn't a little sign.
Right.
That was huge.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I accepted the apology. He got down on his knees. Oh well, and that's when it started. Before I even married him.
So, did you ever like leave and go back?
Oh yeah, yeah. So when I think I got married, I think I was 28 or 29 in 1990. So I got pregnant with Kendall, my oldest son, before the year was over. And one day we was laying in the bed having a conversation about something. To this day I don't remember what it was about. But he started fussing and he started getting heated. And so I said, "Let me get up and go to the bathroom," right? Because whatever it was something stupid. It wasn't even worth getting into an argument about. And I was pregnant with Kendall at the time. I was about 5 or 6 months pregnant with my first child. And so I got up and I went in the bathroom. And soon as I cleared the door of the bathroom, he grabbed me by the back of my nightgown, right? And I just went up in the air and flipped backwards and hit the floor. And I was looking up at him. Like he just grabbed me and slammed me down. And so I was looking up. And then he said, "I wasn't finished talking to you yet." So I'm laying on the floor like this in my nightgown, pregnant as a tick. And he was like, I wasn't finished talking to you yet. And I was like, "Oh my God." And that scared the crap out of me. Because I always felt like
Don't.
because I was pregnant, he ain't gonna hurt me. He's so excited about me being pregnant. It didn't matter. And that's what he said. "I wasn't finished talking to you." So when we got dressed that morning to go to work, I went to work and then I didn't go back home. I went to a hotel and I stayed there and he couldn't find me for almost 2 weeks. And he would call and I wouldn't talk to him. On my job, they would say, "Dr. Craig, your husband's on the phone." And I wouldn't talk to him because my mother had told me when I was growing up that zebras don't change their stripes. I still got that in my
They
head.
don't.
And so she said, and if he do it once, he'll do it again. So she said the first time it happened, don't let it happen. She said you gotta get out of there because they're not going to change. And so I just was terrified and I left. I was staying at on St. Barnabas Road in the Red
Red
Roof.
roof. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, you remember I was in the Red Roof
Hmm.
and he didn't know where I was. And so because I wouldn't answer his calls and because he would call on my job and I wouldn't take the calls, he took off work and he just came and waited outside my job 2 weeks out, right? And he followed me back to the Red Roof Inn. And so he came and bang, bang, banged on the door and then did the same thing. "I love you. I overreacted. Are you gonna hold it against me because I overreacted? You know I love you." And there was people at the Red Roof Inn that said, "Please go with him, please, just so he can shut up." And so I took all my little well, actually, he came in. We made love, and like it was brand new and everything. And I went home. I went home and I regretted it. I regretted it. So that was when I left and I was gone for like 2 weeks. But I went back.
Right. Now, the final time that you left. Now, this is three kids later.
Yep.
What was that
Oh my
thing that
God.
happened that you was like, okay, I'm gone, not coming back?
The thing that happened that made me not go, I will never forget this as long as I live. I I was married to him for 14 years. I stayed in that crazy mess for 14 years. And I want to say this, mine was more mental, so much so that I didn't realize, even as a physician, I didn't realize that it was DV. You know what I mean? I kept
Mhm.
saying, he's just mean. Yeah, he just got a
Mhm.
mean streak. And he's spoiled. Like he's spoiled. He's the only boy. He has four sisters, and he's 13 years younger than his youngest sister. So he was all of their babies. You know what I mean? He was, and I just so I it was just weird how I didn't call it what it was. You
Mhm.
know, I didn't label it what it was. So 14 years. I've been in this for 14 years. And every time I thought about leaving, one of the things that kept me from leaving, and I hate to say this, was my church.
Mm.
So I would go to church and I told him, because I said if something happened to me, I want somebody to know what's going on. I told him all the times he spit in my face. Oh,
Mhm.
Elvis said she had to get restraining orders. I had to get three, right?
Mhm.
And so because he's a federal employee and his rank is high up there. He was a SES step whatever. He couldn't have the orders of protection on his record. So he had to pay money and get them expunged every time I got one. Um there's a reason why I brought that up.
About it being your last.
So oh, so he wouldn't I wouldn't get another order of protection. His new thing, instead of putting his hands on me, he never did that again. After the third order of protection, he didn't do it anymore. His new thing, y'all listen to me. He will hawk and spit in my face. And then he would say, I love to see you prove that to the police. That's what he used to say. Love it. And he used to aim for my mouth, right? And try to spit in my mouth. So I don't know if that was worse. Okay. So that was the new thing. And so from then on out, for the remainder of like the 10 years, that would happen. Whenever he got upset, he would spit in my face.
Mm.
Okay. So the event the straw broke the camel's back. I was scared to get out. I had talked, you supposed to seek godly counsel. So I talked to the older women. The older women supposed to teach the younger women. I was talking to the women in the church, and they were just like, God hates divorce. God hates divorce. You can't get divorced. God hates divorce. And so I felt trapped. Like I have made my bed and now I got to lay in this bad boy because I don't want God to be disappointed in me if I get divorced. Right? Because I was like, I believe that. And I was just
Mhm.
I've never been so depressed. And I was like, I can't leave. But I, I got diagnosed with breast cancer. I was going through chemo. I went through 6 months of chemotherapy instead of just three because the mass in my left breast was 4.5 centimeters. It was huge. So I did 3 months of Cytoxin and Adriamycin, and then they made me do another 3 months of Taxotere, and I was allergic to that. And I was depressed because I would go to Georgetown to the Lombardi Cancer Center, and all the people that I would get chemo with, we always go the same time every time we go, so you get to know people. They would always have their spouses or their best friend or they he never went with me. My mother would go with me and I would drive. And then like I said, 6 months. And I was like, wow. So the day that I left, I got a call from the hospital and they said, Dr. Craig, you can't get chemo today because your white count is too low. So we'll shoot for next week. And I was like I was sad because I would have been finishing on my birthday, February the 3rd. I would have been finishing, right? That would have been it. But I couldn't because they draw your blood first. I had a Metaport that they used to draw blood from, and they drew my blood and my white count was too low. So they called me and said you can't get chemo today. And they even gave me all these instructions saying if you get a fever, go straight to the hospital. And they told me don't eat any fresh foods, no fresh fruit, no fresh vegetables because of the pesticides that might be on them and that might kill me. And they said for once I'm going to tell you to eat out of a can. Do not eat anything fresh where you might get sick from pesticides. So I got all these instructions, and don't be around anybody that's sick. And so the house me and Brian lived in was so big. We had 5 bedrooms, and we listen to me, y'all. We had to move into this house because we was in a high tax bracket. The year before we moved into the house, we paid $44,000 in taxes. So we
Mm,
needed to move to a bigger house to have a tax write off. So and he's an accountant. That's what he does. That's what
mhm,
he is. So we moved to this bigger house. And so I brought that up because when they told me I couldn't get chemo, I walked over to my intercom, y'all, in my house and pressed the button. And I said, Brian, I'm not going to chemo today. My white count is low, so I can't go. He was downstairs in the basement sleeping. He said, all right, and then he went on back to sleep. So I'm in this big house, unhappy, miserable as all get out. Okay. And so here's the event. The phone rang, and it was my girlfriend. And she said, my husband just punched me in my face. And so she said, we had a brawl outside in the front yard. And she said, and the police came, and she said, I want to know, can I come over your house and stay until my parents come and pick me up? And I said, of course, you family. She was married to my husband's nephew. So
mhm,
that must run in the family, y'all. Okay.
mhm,
And his nephew went to school with us. Him and his nephew was the same age. His mother and 3 of his sisters had kids at the same time. Do you know I didn't know that his nephews were his nephews until I got married to him? I thought they was his brothers. But his
mhm,
mom and his sisters had boys at the same time. So anyway, one of them nephews was married to my girlfriend. We punched her in her face. So she came over the house. So look, I walked over to the intercom, pressed the button, and I said, Pepsi's coming over because her and James was fighting. So she's gonna come stay until her parents come and get her. Uh-oh. I heard his feet coming up them steps. And this was the thing. It happened so much that when I heard his feet, I knew was he if he was coming up there to make love, if he was coming up there to fight, if he was. I knew I could tell by the way his feet sound on them steps, and he was coming to fight. Right now, mind you, remember my white count is so low I can't go to the hospital. I done lost all my hair. I'm walking around with a satin cap on my head, bald as an eagle, and not feeling good. Right, and here he come, and he came up them steps, and he said, "You know what? She's not my family." He said, James is my family. And he said, and if my nephew get locked up, he said, I will put you out, her, and that little yellow baby of hers in the street. Do you understand me? And then this was it. This was the defining moment. He said, and you know what, Michelle? I wish your ass would drop dead. Cause you're gonna die and leave me with these kids. I know you're gonna die and leave me with these kids. So I wish you would just go ahead and die and get it over with. That's what he said, right? That ain't even what tipped me because I've been called so many things and so many bad things. What messed my head up was my 5-year old and my 6-year old heard him. They were upstairs, and when he started yelling, they migrated downstairs. And they have this thing that they do when he start yelling and screaming at me. They put their hand over my mouth and they say, "Don't talk, mommy, don't talk, because you can't argue by yourself. Daddy can't argue by himself." That's what I used to tell them when they would argue. I said, "Somebody take the high road and just be quiet, because you can't argue by. Let the other person. They'll just fizzle out." And so that's what they came downstairs to tell me to be quiet, right? Because you can't argue by yourself. So they had their hand over my mouth, both of them, my 5-year old, my 6-year old. And then their father said, I wish your ass would drop dead because you're going to die and leave me with these kids. And they screamed. I, my daughter and my son screamed like, "Mommy, please don't die." They just little kids. Why would you say that? They lost it. And I couldn't console them. They were
mhm,
inconsolable. And I had them in my arms, and I rocked and I rocked, and they were just like, "Mommy, please don't go. Please don't die. Mommy, please don't die." I remember it was light outside when Delacey and Demetrius were in my arms and I was rocking them. And I said, "Your daddy doesn't mean it." I said, "You guys know how he just say things he doesn't mean. He doesn't mean it." And my husband repeated it. He said, "Don't tell them what the F I mean. I wish it would drop dead." And then he left the house. It took me until pitch dark to
mhm,
rock the Lacey and Demetrius until they had calmed down, because they would doze off, and every time they would doze off and I would try to move, they would stick their finger up my nose or in my mouth to make sure I was still there. Like, is she still? And I'll be like, I'm here. I'm not going nowhere. I'm not. It's not time for mommy to die. I'm not going nowhere. And that's the day when I call my parents, because it's the first time that I realized how they were affected by it. Before
Mm-hmm.
that, I kept thinking, God hates divorce and you need to stay because that's you married that man and God wants you to stay with that man. And I kept thinking that they needed to be around their father. But it was the first time I had, bam, this V8 moment like, Michelle, Demetrius is going to think that's the way you resolve conflict
Mm-hmm.
and spit,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and call her a B. And DeLacy is going to be a magnet for a man like that because that's the only thing she's ever seen and that's the only thing she knows. Do y'all know that was 14 years out that I did not realize how they were affected about it? I was so,
Right.
like, woe is me. And, let me just try to be a better wife and let me just try to be a better woman of God. But that day, I
Mm-hmm.
realized my children were messed up because
Mm-hmm.
of him,
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
I'll be damned if I'm going to let him hurt them anymore. It was just like I turned into Hulk. I got to get them out of here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so when I'm telling y'all, my arms were so sore. I remember because I held them a whole day just so I could get them to sleep so that I could call my parents and ask them, could I come home? And my mother and my father, I had to admit that I was going through DV. And that just tore them up. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they know something wasn't right. I mean, come on, they
Right.
have
Oh yeah.
they know
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
saw how he isolated me away from them. They saw
Oh
all
yeah.
of that, but
Yeah.
I never said it before,
Mm-hmm.
and so
Yeah.
I moved back in with my parents, and that's when my life changed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's the thing, is that you don't realize just how it's affecting the kids.
My
And for
God.
you to have that aha moment to realize, wow, yeah, yeah, we can't
Mm-mm.
remain in this situation.
No, they still affected by it.
Yeah,
Praise
definitely.
God. They are 26, 27, and 30. Amazing, two amazing young men. My son is his degree is in history and English, and he teaches music at his school now. He teaching music. Me and him just bought some instruments for the kids yesterday, some xylophones and stuff for them yesterday. And my daughter is the chair of the biology department where she works,
Hmm.
Right.
and my youngest son works for the Department of Environmental Energy. Exceptional kids, but I just see my youngest son's temper reminds me so much of his dad. My
Mm-hmm.
daughter doesn't trust nobody.
Nobody. No.
No, and so I felt like, remember when Velvet said she thought about she should have maybe got out sooner because she saw how it affected Ellie. That's what I regret. I was married to him for 14 years. And
Hmm.
I felt like, what kind of mother were you? Your
Hmm.
job is to protect them. And they were exposed. He asked my youngest son, my oldest son, to steal the wedding ring back. He said, that's mine and I want it back. And he told, we alternated weekends taking care of them. So on my weekend, he told my son to steal his ring back. And if
Mm.
he didn't, he said he was gonna kill him. My son didn't steal the ring back. He didn't. And so my baby boy told me he made my oldest son go stand in the snow with no shoes on and no clothes on. So in the garage, we had a 3-car garage. And so the snow had drifted into the garage. They said, and he never told me this. My baby boy said he made him go stand in the snow in the garage with no shoes on and no clothes on because he didn't get that ring back.
Mm.
And you think they're not affected by that? That
Right.
they ain't
Oh
scarred
yeah.
by that? The oldest
Oh
one is
yes.
compassionate.
Yeah.
And he can't, when people start arguing, you can just see like he get this
Oh
little
yeah.
shake in his head. He's the peacemaker. He always like got to make peace because he can't take it. Whereas the youngest boy
Right.
is like, I'm gonna give you as good as you get. You cuss at me, I'm cussing at you. He always tell his father, I'm not Kendall, and you ain't punking me. And the
Hmm.
youngest one, now he's a fighter, but that's not good either. And
Hmm.
my daughter was a daddy's girl. There
Hmm.
are no girls. We had the first girl. Everybody had boys, and she
Hmm.
was rotten. And then after a
Hmm.
while, he just started ignoring her too, and that crushed her.
Yeah.
She would tell him she was going to pick her up from school or pick her up or take her somewhere, and just not do it. and not
Yeah.
giving no reason for not doing it. So she's 26 and she don't trust. That's Cecilia's goddaughter. She don't
Yes.
trust nobody.
Mm-mm, none. No one.
And I feel partially responsible for leaving them in it, staying married so long. You know, I wish I had to got out sooner for their sake.
Yeah.
Right. Right. So we thank you, Dr. Craig and Velvet. And now we have Mr. Brooks, who actually
Hmm.
started a foundation for DV, and it's based on, well, he started after the loss of his daughter, but it also honors his mom and dad. So, Mr. Brooks, can you please share? And Dr. Craig, will you stay around because we may have some?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. How's everybody?
Fine, Mr. Griffin.
Dr. Craig, Dr.
Yes, sir.
Craig, oh my God. Oh my God. He showed you, I just want to comment on that a little bit. He showed you everything.
He did.
And I guess that's my fight today, uh, with women. I promise you, we will show you. Carol, you heard me say this before. We will show you who we are.
Yes, sir.
We're gonna show you. But we also have that charm
Mm,
to get us back in your arms each and every time.
yep.
Yeah, your kids were scarred. They were scarred. But you at the time you did the best you could that you thought was right.
Right.
But move forward from here. Uh, that's my advice to you. Move forward from here. And all men are not like your husband.
I know.
Don't charge all men with that. All men are not like your husband. But use your husband as an example to pay attention to any man that you may decide to call your friend. Let's go there.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, just right there. Because I'm looking at some statistics that was said earlier, and I had a few of them, and they said 1 in 4 women will experience domestic violence during their lifetime. Women are more likely to be killed by their intimate partner than men. And to violate, women ages 20 to 24 are at great risk of becoming victims of domestic violence.
DV.
Every year, 1 in 3 women who are victims of homicide is murdered by her current or former partner. Thanks be to God, y'all still alive. You're still here.
Amen. Amen.
You know.
And it is by
So
the grace of God.
whatever they did to you, however they scarred from you, move from it, learn from it, and move from it. Don't stay. Don't let them continue to keep you hostage. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Um, my story is this. Um, too young when my mother was murdered, my dad, to even know what happened.
Mm.
Then later on, I found out they both murdered by dad by a jealous woman, mother by a jealous guy she broke up with, and he actually went on her job and killed her.
Oh
Okay,
my God. Oh my
my
God.
dad was killed from a crime of passion, so I'm thinking somebody else may have been involved in that. So that's another story too. My daughter, she called me. I was living out of state at the time. My daughter called me, and I was sitting on the sofa like I am right now, watching television. She was like, "Dad, I got an issue with this guy. I don't know why he don't stop calling me. I wish he would just stop. He's not my kind of guy. I went out with him, but he's not my kind of guy." I'm like, okay. So I said, "Ma, you want me to call my brother and want him to look into it?" She said, "No, well, I don't know. Let me give you a call in a few days and let's see how it plays out." So a few days later, she called and she said me she's not getting phone calls anymore. I said, "Okay, well that's good. Maybe he got the message. You didn't want to go out with him anymore." Well, the reason he had stopped calling because he had gotten arrested for a suspended driving license so many times. So he was in jail for what 3 to 4 months, whatever that time carried, for that. But
Okay.
as soon as he got out, the phone started ringing again, and he promised her something uh, that night that she talked to him on the phone. And he told her that you're going to regret not going out with me. The next morning, he waited till she took her mother to work and stood in the alley and waited till she got back. Shot her dead in her car. Okay, and her son then he was affected by that because he
Oh,
stood that window waiting for his mom to come pick him up to go to school. He
oh
saw
my
it. Okay,
God.
I got a 28-year-old granddaughter from that particular daughter. Um, she don't date today. She still don't date. You
Oh,
know, or if she do, it's nah. If you holler, I think I used to joke her a little bit. I said, "Well, sweet," I said, "Baby, tell me why you don't are you dating with your boyfriend?" She said, "Papa, I'm not doing that right now. I don't." I think one time she mentioned to me she went out with a guy. And he raised his voice at her, and that was enough. So that was the end of that. So she's,
mm-hmm.
she's standoffish, of good
Yes,
reason.
sir.
You know.
Yep.
Now, with that said,
Oh,
don't sound like nobody got counseling after all this trauma, after all this stuff. I mean, from everybody I'm listening to, nobody got counseling. We met the counseling part,
I did.
the trauma, you know, this mental
Yep,
health stuff, this
I
deep
did.
stuff. I
And my
did.
kids
I
did too.
had, yeah, I had to. I had to talk this thing out,
Yeah.
So after that, then I just decided just talking to different guys about domestic violence and criminal violence, just to start a foundation so I can talk about it, so I can help myself heal. Okay,
Yes, sir.
I started going. Richmond got a homicide support group. We go there, we sit down and we talk. And when you think you got it bad, you listen to somebody else's story.
Right,
Okay,
right.
I think we did something. Carl know what I'm talking about. We did something at the city hall where we was putting the picture of your loved one on a tree to recognize them as being a homicide victim in Richmond. And I thought I did something by putting 2 or 3 pictures up there until
Mm.
a lady walked past me and put up 7,
God.
you know,
Hey.
people in her family who was killed. So I just try to get the message out to women that pay attention
Yes, sir.
to what he
Me too.
says.
Me too.
Yeah, pay attention to the body language. Pay attention to who he say he is, because he's gonna tell you.
Yep.
It's gonna come out. If you're an abuser, you're gonna know you're dealing with an abuser. And for one thing, you don't think you can change an abuser because you can't.
Right.
That's who he is. You don't know what happened to him in his life. You don't know what he saw as a kid growing up.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, at the time, you're not thinking about all that
Right.
because
Right.
you're one-on-one in a relationship with this person. So what I do, I try to do, have little events, whatever, or keep my ears open for events, to pay attention to what's going on around the city, see what's going on and see what the conversation is about. And I try to get in the conversation. And right now with everybody all bogged down with the pandemic and everything, and you spending a lot of time with your significant other, you really get an opportunity to find out
Ooh,
who you're
don't you?
dealing with, who you're living with. And then I mean,
Yes.
I just don't. I guess I don't get the part of just allowing him to do you any kind of way he choose to. That really just truly disturbs me, because a lot of people I know, the women that I do know and I do talk to, are bright women, are women raising families, are women that go to work every day, career women, and to think that you deserve to be treated like that and allow him to say, "I apologize, I'm sorry, I had too much to drink, I didn't mean it," and you let him back each and every time. I'm confused. What is it about this person that allows, and I know a lot of it is he's my baby daddy, or we got married and we gonna honor God. Well, I'm a deacon in my church, and if women that ask me for advice, if I can openly, honestly answer it, I don't know if I'm gonna tell you go back to somebody that's beating you up. You know, I don't know if I'm gonna say trust God. I might say, God give you a sense to know what time it is to get out. I might say that did you make any phone calls? Did you share with anybody else what you're going through? And guys have a way of saying, I heard somebody say it might have been you on Dr. Craig, that I'm changing my life around or something, or I'm choosing God, I'm a Christian or something like that. Well, that's one of the easiest ways to get a woman underneath your belt. I love the Lord.
Right.
I
Right.
love the Lord. But
They
you know
go
what
looking
question
for
you need to
church
answer?
girls.
right. Do you love yourself?
Right.
Mhm.
And
You
Velvet,
know,
did
you
you
know.
experience that as far as you know, I'm changing. Oh, is she still there?
Is you still there?
Let me see.
I don't know, but can I say something?
Sure.
So
Go ahead.
listen to me. It ain't really no uh no deep thing.
Mhm.
The the cycle of violence is the reason why people don't leave. Look, I'm an intelligent woman. I
Right.
went to medical school. I
Mhm.
graduated. I
Mm-hmm.
was a salutatorian in my class in high school. I graduated with honors from American University undergraduate. I graduated with honors from Howard Medical School. But the whole issue with domestic violence is it's a learned behavior. It's and anything that you learn is hard to unlearn it. It's not
Right.
really that complicated. So they are
Oh,
masters
there
at
she go.
isolating you away from all the people who give you positive reinforcement. Me and Cecilia was hooked at the hip, but I didn't even get to see her that much. I got to
Yep.
talk to her on the
Right.
telephone, but he made
Mhm.
sure
That's
that
sign.
when Cecilia wanted to come over, it wasn't a good time for her to come over. He wouldn't even
Right.
let me be
Right.
around my parents. So now the only thing that I keep hearing over and over again, you black ugly B, you're lucky I want you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
you can
Yeah.
say anything
See.
you want to, but if that's the only thing you hear day in and day out, on some level, you become what they say that you are,
Mhm.
because it's a
Yeah. You
it's
start believing it.
it can be learned positive
Yeah.
behavior, but or
Yeah.
it can be learned
Yeah.
negative behavior. And then, Mr. Brooks,
Right.
the longer you stay, the harder it is to get away, because
Mhm.
all
Okay.
I heard for 14 years was I was a black ugly bee, thick glass, blind ass, this, and so I'm intelligent enough to know that I'm not really a blind
Mhm.
AB, but
Mhm.
what I
Yeah.
hear all the time, every day
Right.
of my life, that's
Yeah.
all I hear.
Yeah.
You can be as strong as you want to be. You need to
Right.
get positive reinforcement from someplace else, you
Somewhere.
know.
Mhm.
Somewhere.
And when you don't get
But
it, you it's hard to walk away from that. Um,
he
I'm
box you in.
right,
He box you in because he take away your friends, your family.
right.
You know,
Right.
your
And
normal.
so and
Your
all
Mhm.
you
normal.
hear is the negative, negative,
Right.
negative. And like I said, I know that I'm
Nobody else
not all
wants
those
you.
things. Right. I know that I'm not
Right.
all those things, but that's all I hear.
Mhm.
I
That's all
don't
you
hear
hear.
nobody telling me I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. I'm not
Mhm.
hearing that
Right.
from nobody.
No,
But
You
right.
you
are.
right,
You
right.
are. And you need to know that for yourself.
Yes.
Right.
But
You need to know that for
you have to
yourself that you're
encourage
fearfully
yourself
and wonderfully
when
made.
it's nobody else to encourage you. But I'm just
Mhm.
Right.
telling you, that's life. I learned how to speak
Right. That's right.
English because all the people around me spoke English when I was growing up. Now,
Hmm.
my entire adult life for 14 years, all I hear is how
Yeah.
worthless I am.
See,
And
man,
it's
that's
hard to turn around and go in the opposite direction. So it's
that
it's
controlling
just a learned
that
negative
controlling
behavior.
spirit is serious.
Right.
That
Right.
controlling spirit, men
Very
Right.
want,
controlling.
that's that controlling spirit when he takes
Yep.
you away from everything that means something to you.
Yep.
Yep.
That's
And
control.
Velvet, how did you experience that as far as the control in trying to sever your ties with your family?
Yeah, so I had a whole bunch of thoughts just now as I was talking.
Mhm.
Um oh man, this is bringing me all the way back. Okay, hold on, wait.
I know.
um with the controlling aspect, so the thing that got me reeled in to the control was that he loved bombed me like hard for like a year straight. Like no other women, no nothing. We was like so romantic, and like it was like an extreme love bomb. But mind you, he was doing very bad stuff, but I never caught it. He would take away my phone, my cell phone. He would have
Mm.
access to all my social media accounts, deleted messages that people sending me, like trying to tell me what he's doing behind closed doors and all of this stuff. But the control aspect, it was like little bit by little bit, it got worse and worse and worse. like with the control, but he definitely did not let me. He was he so my abuser. He's a con artist. Like he'll portray to everybody. He confuse
Yeah,
us a lot.
absolutely.
Like he'll say like you can talk to your family, you can have a relationship with them, and then as soon as you talk to them, he be like, "Oh, so you don't want to be with me no more? You don't
Yeah,
love me
yeah,
no more? You love them more than me?" Like he'll use that, and then you start feeling like. Then he'll remind you. Well, my abuser, he'll remind us of our traumas, and then he'll play on
yeah,
that aspect. And then by us being so young, I'm talking about this is 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 year olds. This not no adults we talking about. This is children. This man will sit there and use their whole childhood and throw it all in their face and use that to like manipulate them into feeling inadequate. These children already feel insecure because the parents weren't there for real, how they needed them to be in their life. And so now that they,
hmm,
have this man who's feeding them all the time, giving them a place to sleep, buying them clothes. He do everything for them. Our abuser used himself as like a father figure to reel us in for the control. It was very weird
Mm-hmm.
dynamic. But yeah, I couldn't talk to none of my family members. I couldn't even talk to
yeah,
friends. And if I talked to
yeah.
somebody, it will
Control.
always be behind his back. It never was,
Yeah.
it was just all about him.
Mm.
Mm.
Cecilia had to come get me one day because I don't know. I said the wrong thing, and he was getting ready to hit me, and I ran out the house in my slip. Cecilia, you remember that day
Yeah.
you came and picked me up? All I had on was stockings and a slip, and I was terrified. I was like, "Uh oh, this today is the day he gonna get me." He lost it.
Hmm.
Cecilia came and got me.
I,
He was like,
I actually punched my abuser in the face before when my baby's in when my baby in my arms trying to escape out a window. That's
Wow.
crazy. I was in Nicaragua at the time, actually.
Lord,
Wow. Wow. That I mean, she needs to write a book and do a
I'm
movie
telling you,
for real.
the Great Escape, too.
Yeah. Yes. I
I
keep
got
muting
counseling.
myself. Now we have Officer Adams, and
Yes.
Carol,
we
Hello.
thank you.
hey.
Can you just share with us, what you know that happens in the field, because you've been a police officer.
Wow. Well, the most of the time, well, statistics say that a victim will not call for help until about the seventh time they've been assaulted. Is that they don't want the police to be involved because they care for for the perpetrator. And
Mhm.
so sometimes when officers come to help, the person that they're coming to help so takes the side of the other person. So when they call, they just really want the violence to stop,
A bottle of
right? They
water.
don't really want the person to
So,
go to jail.
Right,
thank you.
right.
So they just want someone to come in to intervene. And so then after officers do that for a while,
Thank you.
and it depends on what that person responding himself has gone through. You think about the effort that they put into it, because now this person that's calling has a track record. It's like, well,
Right.
we take a report, they go to court, they're gonna change their minds. And I mind you, as a rookie, I went on a call and there was a man in the street and he was beating his lady with a pipe, and
Oh.
it took quite a few of us to get him into custody and protect her. And when we got to court, she had no recollection.
Wow.
And then the judge motioned to me to file charges against her because, for filing a false police report. Because,
Mhm.
but we know the makeup, you all have talked about the cycle.
Mhm.
So by the time the arrest happens, the person goes to jail, get out on bond, and get back home. And it's the I'm sorry, it's the make up to break up, and they don't want them to spend any significant amount of time. And the old adage is, if you don't talk, then they won't send me to jail. And so the person who's been assaulted, changes their mind, and that's difficult. and like you all are saying, which is true, from my own experiences, that people that will not leave, will never leave by the coercion of someone else. They are only going to leave on their own accord.
Yep.
They're only going to leave when they
Yep.
get to the point where they're filled enough and that thing
Right.
has happened that is just not acceptable. So myself as an officer, and from my childhood, I know that if I could not convince my mother to leave, I could not convince anyone else to leave. So the most
Mm-hmm.
important thing for me is to be armed, to be able to be nurturing enough, caring enough, and to listen, and to let that person know that I see them and I hear them, and to be able to provide them adequate resources, what's a benefit to them, steps that they can take, even when it comes down to a protective order. It's just a piece of paper, right? It's
Mhm.
just a piece of paper that's not going to really protect you. It's a piece of paper, and you're following the process, and it's great to have that documented. But still, when somebody's past the limit and they mean what they say, then that piece of paper is not going to protect you. So you
Right.
have but what's good now is that for the first time in all of law enforcement history, when President Obama was in office, they were actually convening conversations at the White House about how police should respond to domestic violence, what should be done, and to create a consistent response, right? So, and now with President Biden there, I'm quite sure a lot of those things will continue on, and money being put into VAWA and different groups like that to be able to help with women's rights. And we've talked a lot about men being perpetrators, but according to our statistics here, it's like about 5-6 years ago, we had just as many women assaulting men as we had
Mm.
men assaulting women
I know
when it
some
came
of them.
down to
I take care
aggravated
of them.
assault.
Yep.
So some might say that that's a great thing because women are fighting back. It is, because no one deserves to be beat. But then we got to go back to the focus of y'all's conversation earlier, is those kids. So now we have children living in these violent households where the mom or the dad, or mom and dad, could be both perpetrators of violence. And so how do
Mm.
kids wrap their mind, and how do they resolve conflict if this is what they are growing up in?
Right.
Mm, 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 mm.
Wow. It's amazing. It's you know, we definitely need to keep the conversation going, and people definitely need to share, especially survivors, so that
Yeah.
others, can have some level of hope
Yes,
to know that there is life after this.
yes, yes,
And
yes. And
what
and that,
it, oh, go on.
and that's really, really important, because we know that DV is a silent killer. So where it's not discussed and where it's not made public, um, then it continues to grow and to build in isolation. So then that means people become hostages. And when we talk about a hostage, there's two forms of physical of confinement. That's physical and mental. Some people can be free to go and to move around each and every day, but they're still confined mentally because that person has psychological control over them. And then when we talk about people that are in prison, where their movement is restricted. So there's two forms of confinement here, when people have control over you. And those are things that we have to pay attention to. And when I'm talking to young women, I always talk about girlfriends and boyfriends, right? So
Mhm.
men do this great thing when they have bonds and they grow up together. They continue to do them. They always play basketball on Friday and Saturday. They go out and they do their things. But as women, we can do that when we're single. But once we get married or get in a relationship, we cut our girls short, right? We
Mhm.
stop going out. We stop having that group. We stop, because your girls are going to keep you straight. Your girls are going to be that piece that you need. And so
Mhm.
once you stop that, you sometimes we initiate the isolation, or if the
Mhm.
person says, well, why do you have to go, so we have to look at that. We have to maintain our autonomy and our independence. And spiritually, even God says that when you become one, you become a pair, you become a team. One person doesn't give up his or her identity for the other. So we have to make sure it says equally yoked. That means you go out, you do your
Yeah.
job, you have fun with your friends, you out do your job, then we come
Yeah.
home, we have a healthy and a whole relationship and not a one dimension relationship.
Wow. Yes, that's very, very important. Wow. Now you were saying that you couldn't convince your mother to leave.
Yes, 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 yes. So well, you didn't know this, but I grew up in 12 years of escalating violence, and my father didn't think that I was his child. So I think they got married at six. They had me at 16. They got married at 16. And so back in 1963, I'll say if you got pregnant, right, it was a shotgun wedding. So love ain't
Mhm.
had nothing to do with it. It's like you're going to get married. And so we moved to the city from a small town. And when we moved from the small town, our lives changed. That, my dad just became aggressive. He would curse at her. You talk about control. They worked one block apart. He could always walk around and look into the restaurant and see what she was doing. She was a waitress. If she smiled too much, like you said, when he was walking up the stairs or putting the key in the door, I knew. I already knew what the deal was going to be. She could not drive. He had a friend that had to drive us places if he could not. And so for 12 years, it just continued to escalate. He was a alcoholic, a bully, because that's what they are. And
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep.
so
Bullies.
he add a gun to the equation,
Oh my.
and made no bones about it. B, I'm gonna kill you one day. B, I'm gonna kill you one day. Didn't try to hide it or anything. And December, we would leave, go to Granny's house. He would come begging and crying. And I just, like last week, there was a man I was talking to, and he was crying, and I was like, Jesus Christ, it was a trigger. Because I
Mhm.
can't help with a crying man. I just have no sympathy. I can love and care for everybody, but when it comes down to that, I'm out,
Mhm.
right? And I was like, and in my job, so I had to separate myself because that was a trigger, because I
Mhm.
was not going to be able to help him, because he was just taking me back because he was trying to get his way, but he was using
Yep.
crying as well. And
Mhm.
so we would go to Granny's, come back. Mama, they would say, the family would say, you don't leave your husband, you got to go back.
Yep.
And I was telling her, no, we don't have to stay. I'll get a job. I got a job. My sister can get a job. We can be just fine. And I was a senior in high school, December 1980, and it was Christmas time. And we went spent Christmas with the family, and I was going to graduate. So as a senior in high school, my number one goal was to graduate, walk across that stage. I was going to leave Richmond, Virginia, and I never was going to return again, because I didn't want to see my mom. I didn't want to see my dad. I didn't want to be a part of their household. I had a younger sister where they were tight, but when they would fight, she wouldn't intervene. I would be in the middle of the fights. He would beat her up on Friday night. On Saturday morning, be three $100 bills on the table. It's like, keep your money because I'm not for sale. Treat my mama right.
Hmm.
But this particular day, we got up, they went to work, I went to work, we came home, and it was different because my mom was getting dressed to go out with her girlfriends, and that was a problem. And so right away, that was a red flag for me, because if she ever said she wanted to go somewhere, he would flip the script, make her uncomfortable, say mean things so she wouldn't go. And this time he didn't. So I'm checking him out, like, okay, so what's up with you? And so mom gets dressed. She goes over to Miss Liz's house. And so I go down the street and I come back. And so when I'm walking up the stairs, so I'm listening to see, what's going on, just knowing it's going to be some commotion. And so I go and sit on my bed. My sister's in the bed. And I reach down to take off my shoe. And I hear pow, 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 pow. So I go to the phone and I dial 911, and I tell them that my dad has shot my mom. And I know because he has promised so many times.
Oh wow.
And when they come, he doesn't leave. He gets up out the bed. She was in the bed. He sits in the chair. He waits for the police to come, because he's the victim now. He is the victim. So he doesn't go anywhere. So
Hmm.
they take her to the hospital and they take him to jail. And world turned upside down. And when we go to get to court, the amazing thing is that I remember the judge asked him, did he have something to say? And he said, yes, I just want to hurry up and do my time so I can get back home to my family. And that just
Woo.
burned
Wow.
me to my core.
Mm.
But God is amazing.
Yes,
And
he is.
those of you
And real.
on this call, we can do things. No, we are catalysts, but God does things for us. Because even though Mr. Adams shot and murdered my mother, he went to prison. He came back out and was living with the woman that he was dating before he went to jail and killed my mother. As an officer, I rode up on the street with him fighting this lady. I would tell that lady, I would say, look, I don't know what your expectations are, but if he murdered his wife, my mother, and the mother of his children, I don't know what your expectations could be.
Mm.
But
Mm,
she stayed with him until he closed his eyes. He developed lung cancer. But
mm.
I had to be his caretaker. He was
Wow.
shot. He was shot 4 times one time, and I had to nurse those and patch those 4 bullet holes.
Mm,
And God is so amazing is that when I was doing it, He never allowed it to register that He had put those 5 holes in my mother. So I
mm,
was allowed I had to care for him to get well. And then when he died, he had terminal lung cancer. Each and every day I was right there, had made arrangements for him, but when he took his last breath, right there. And even though he disowned me as his child, he would say, you would always be the first one here. And I say, because this is my responsibility and this is what I'm supposed to do. And so when
mm,
he took his last breath, I didn't have not a worry or a whimper in the world
mm,
that God had afforded me the opportunity to do what I was supposed to do. And the key is like the young lady said, it's not about their actions, it's about what you do. Because
mhm,
you're only
Yeah.
responsible for what you do. And in my dad, Mr. Adams, and I still don't know if he's my dad or not, but he was a bully,
mm,
and he never bothered me because I would give him a run for his money. He knew he couldn't fight my mom if I was there because he was
mhm.
going to get it. With the
Right.
last breath in my body, he was going to get it. But as you all talk about your children, so me as a woman, right? So I had my training, my field training early. So
Mm,
dating and being in relationships, like I've been single for 25 years now. I was
mm,
married. And my first husband, one morning, he woke up and something happened. And he just, had one of those moments. And I had to explain to him, it's like, look at here, I'm not my mother. And that
mhm.
is not acceptable.
Right.
And I was dialing 911 to say, he will be DOA when you arrive. And and he really did not take me serious, but I took my children and I left.
Mm,
And I left, and I said, because my children would not grow up in the same environment that I did. And as an officer, I can't stand to hear anybody talking loud. And I'm so grateful to God to allow me to be able to do my job and to be peaceful. And even when I go places and people are yelling and screaming, I don't
mhm,
speak loud. I said, when y'all calm down, we can work things out. But it just goes through me just like a lightning rod.
mm,
Mhm.
And when you talk about trust and relationships, like I said, I'm single. Most people think I have a husband, but no, I'm happy, I'm free, and I'm doing me. And
mhm,
sometimes as women, we don't get to know who we are because we become significant others, then mothers and wives, and we're caught up into who everybody else think we should be. And young lady, my
Mhm.
grandma told me when my first husband, she was like, well, God, you took an oath before God. I said, God gave me a big head and a big brain, Grandma. I said, I wasn't born in 1914. I was born in 1963. And God didn't mean for me to stay anywhere where people are not going to talk nice to me first. And
right.
like Taurus talked
Yes.
about it, it starts with the words. It starts
Mm,
with
Yeah.
to see what's acceptable. And when I talk to
Yeah.
young women, and they going out on a date, that first date, I said, act as crazy as you possibly can because you need to see who that person is.
Mhm.
I said, we
Yeah.
go, we act prim and proper. I said, talk on your phone as much as you can, be as rude as you can, because you need to know up front, is
Mhm.
this somebody that does, because if you want to press those buttons, you want to see who this
Mhm.
person is that you're sitting at the
That's
table
good.
with.
That's good.
So,
Mhm.
Yeah,
and
that's
you
good.
and it's
That's
and
good.
you got to be you, and you
Mhm.
cannot allow somebody to hold you
Right.
hostage. And
That's right.
later
That's
on,
right.
I was dating a
That's right.
man, and he said, "What he told me, Tars?" He said, "You act like you scared of me." I said, "Sweetheart," I said, "Remember this." I said, "My daddy murdered my mother, so I'm 2 clicks from being off." I said, "So don't think that I'm scared of you. I manage it and I maintain it, but not for one moment because I don't say
Right.
anything. Think that I'm
Right.
afraid of you, right?" And
Right.
so
Right.
2 months, 3 months down the road, he called me the B word. And I said, "Well, let me tell you this. We already had a conversation
That did
about the
it.
B word, and the B word is not
That did it.
acceptable. So read
Mm-mm.
my lips. I no longer want to be in a relationship with you." He looks at me. He says, "What did you say?" I said, "I and no longer want to be in a relationship with you. So our relationship is over." And so he texts me and he said, "I've never had a woman." I said, "You right. You've never been in a relationship with a
That's
woman
the
that was
problem.
equally yoked." And that's what
Mhm.
we gotta understand. It's like when you go
That's
into
right.
something,
That's
you
right.
go in equally and you let it be known that nothing is not acceptable. And I think it's interesting is that I don't know if y'all seen the Janet Jackson documentary, but did you see the line where she told the young man that she's heard it all before because she had 6 brothers who
Oh
had pretty
wow.
much who had pretty much schooled her, and she'd heard and seen all the little games and all of that stuff. And it's sort of like the same thing. So we have to
Mhm.
educate our young people and to
Right.
love upon our kids, girls and boys, because people will take advantage of them. And then going back
Well,
to
yes, they
that,
will.
when she talked about the childhood, we tell too much. Don't tell people your business, because when you tell them how you've been traumatized, they are loving, kind, and nurturing, but they're going to use it against you. So it's none of their business.
Mhm.
Some things are,
Yeah.
it's just between you and God. And if people didn't know, they should
Mhm.
not know.
Yes. That's right.
Mhm.
That's right.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yes.
That's good.
So,
That's
does
good.
anyone on the panel have any questions for each other, or want to bring some other points out or up?
Well, I just want to, well, for Taurus, Taurus is the
Yeah.
key. The goal is having men at the table, having the conversation, because the conversation is for men and women, and we
Mhm.
have to teach young men how to be men, and young women how to be
Yeah.
women, and how to be treated like ladies. And that's what's missing, having those mentors and those coaches in your lives. But as older people, we've got to show and share our hurdles and our obstacles, and our
Mhm.
failures with the young kids, because I was telling a preacher one time, it's like, well, when you become a deacon, you all of your history before that, a deaconess, your history is erased, right? So we don't share with the children that teen pregnancy is forever, has been forever,
Right.
right? And so we
Right.
Mhm.
look at things as if that we are too good for that, or that would never happen to us or to ours. And I think we gotta step back, and we've got to be able to share these obstacles so that we can help the babies, to make them more receptive to come and to talk about it, because if
Right.
you haven't heard it talked about, you don't know anything about it. And if you look at people as being these model citizens, and God only knows we're not, because we've had experiences. But it's important, to have the male voice at the table, with the young girls, and the young men, vice versa.
Yeah.
Right. To be authentic and,
Yes.
you know, and definitely share everything that can help
Yeah.
someone else.
Hmm.
Because,
Yeah.
a lot of times
Yeah.
things are so taboo, especially in the Black community. We
Hmm.
sweep things under the rug. We
Yeah.
don't discuss this. We don't say
Yeah.
that. No, 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 no. And like you said, and act like, oh, that never happened,
Right.
and now I'm, holier than thou because I'm deacon, deaconess,
Hmm.
but
Yes.
you were someone else before the
Yes.
deacon, the deaconess, and the title. So,
Hmm.
what did you do to get where you are now?
Right. And not just
Right.
in the church, even in professions, because with
Mhm.
even with me being wearing that police uniform, I remember the first time I went on a DV call, the second time, and the mom, she's hesitant about the decision she's gonna make, and she has her children there. And I just told her my story, and she's
Mhm.
looking at me because I got these clothes on. I said, "Look, these are just clothes." I said, "These
Mhm.
are clothes." I said,
Mhm.
life happens to
Right.
everyone. And I said, and if
Right.
there's something that I can say, I said, because you see that little person standing over there, that's me. I said,
Yeah.
and
Mm.
when the
Yeah.
police came, I wanted the police to stop it. I wanted them to rescue me. And I
Mhm.
said, but
Yeah.
still the rescuing falls upon the parent who can take the children away, right? And
Right.
as a kid, if the judge had asked me at 10 years old, where do you want to be? It's like, I don't want to be with either one of them because I don't
Mhm.
want to hear one
Yeah.
side of the story or the other side of the story, but I want to be in a
Right.
safe place
Right.
with my mother. And like you saying,
Right.
Doc, is like thinking that if you leave, what about your children's relationship with their dad?
Yeah.
Any child would rather have two parents living in two different households where there's no hell being raised.
And
Mhm.
but
Where
and you
they
don't think and you
Right.
don't think about that, but that's so
right.
true because
Mm-hmm,
they've expressed
Yeah.
it since then. And
Yeah.
mm-hmm,
and I was fortunate that I had a judge who wouldn't grant the divorce until we went to family counseling. And
mm-hmm,
she said, I think her name was Judge Hennessy, and she said, "Cause I'm not worried about you or him." She
right.
said, "But them three kids, Kendall,
Mm-hmm,
Demetrius, and DeLacy." She said, "One, I want them to know that they didn't do anything to cause this. I don't want them to feel responsible for y'all
Mhm.
not
mm-hmm,
being able to get along." And she said, "Two, I don't want them to think they can do nothing to fix it because it shouldn't be fixed. Y'all shouldn't be together because
right.
y'all can't get
Mhm.
along." She
Mm-hmm,
said, "But
Mhm.
I don't
Yeah.
want them to feel
Yeah.
guilty that they should have done something or they should have been better kids so y'all would stay together." And so she
Mhm.
said, "So y'all gonna get the divorce," but she said, "But y'all going to counseling because all three of them need to know that this ain't their fault. They
Yeah.
couldn't fix it
Mhm.
and they didn't cause it." And
Right.
I appreciate that was God. You know, that
Yeah.
he was
Mhm.
ordering my steps back then because
Right.
I sure wouldn't have gone to no counseling. I just was like, I need to get away from him, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but but my God sister Cecilia brought something to my attention. She said every time somebody says his name, your head spin around 5 times, steam come out your ears and blood shoot out your eyes. And she said, and Michelle, they watching that. Like
mm-hmm,
she said, it terrifies DeLacy. And
yeah.
she said DeLacy said she gets so scared. Like when you hear his name, she's scared you gonna go off.
Mm-hmm,
And I felt so bad after a while when I realized how my behavior changed just hearing his name and them seeing me. They little teeny people and they just see this big, angry me. So now I'm thinking he the problem. But
Mhm.
I'm terrifying all three of them
right.
Mhm.
because the way
Yeah.
I act when I hear his name. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that nobody brings to your attention.
Mm-mm,
My counselor did.
mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Oh
She
yeah,
told me
it's
about my ugly attitude.
yeah,
She said,
Mhm.
"You don't think that you just like woe is me, but he's spitting on me, and he do
Mhm.
you know what he did to me?" And she said, "I remember one time she said, yes, I know what he did to you because you done told me." She said, "But what we talking about is what he's doing to DeLacy, Demetrius, and Kendall." Man, she gave me a serious wake up call. You know, it was like, you know,
Yeah, let me say it with you.
exactly. He spit on you. He threw your clothes down the stairs. She said, I know. And she said, but that don't have nothing to do with what the Lacey and Kendall and Demetrius are saying, and they don't know what to do. They don't
Right.
know what to do. And so,
mm-hmm,
you know,
Right.
when they finished counseling, my son said he was 9 years old, and he said, I'm so glad because he said, first I felt bad. I thought that they were supposed to stay together no matter what. And he said, but my counselor said they can still love each other, even though they ain't in the same house. And they
yeah,
can still be friends, even though they're not in the same house. And he said, because if they gonna stay in the house, they not gonna be friends and they not gonna love each other. And
yeah,
that clicked in his little mind. He was like,
Mhm.
yes. So they need to get away from each other so they can
Mhm.
love each other from a distance and so they can be friends. And I won't have to worry. Cecilia, he used to try to cut school so he could stay in the house to make sure I was protected.
mm-hmm.
It was
Mm.
not a 9 year old shouldn't have to do
Mhm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
No.
And see,
No.
that's what happened. That's what's happened when the children have to become protectors, and a lot of
Mhm.
children,
Yeah.
are left committing murder, because
Woo, she
those
said it.
steps have not
Yep.
been taken, right? So
Right.
they're
Right.
trying protect. And
Right.
that's what I end up telling a lot of moms.
Yeah.
Don't put your son in a place where
Yep.
he's gonna lose his freedom and
Yes.
his his mental health
Yep.
trying to
Right.
protect you.
Right.
It's not
Right.
fair.
Exactly.
It is
Exactly.
just not
Put
fair
them in
to
a
put
bad
him
situation.
in that,
Yeah.
right, or daughter, because we have a
Hmm.
situation here in the city that is a young girl. She stabbed the man to death, and so yes, they had to take her into custody, but things have worked out, and that's what I tried to explain to the people that I know that's working with her. I said it's a process. I said, but there's no judge that reviews all of this is going to make this child. But even though she's free from behind bars, mentally and psychologically, she
Yeah.
still has to live with that
Right.
burden, and
Right.
Yes.
that was not
Right.
her burden to carry.
Carry.
It
Right.
was not. It was
Right.
not. It was not. I wrote a poem about 10 years ago, and it goes, um, who am I? No, I'm a little girl. I live at 123 DV Drive. So my mom is a beautiful lady. My dad is beautiful as well. However, they have so many problems going on to some degree. I said, and they have no idea what my favorite color is, what my favorite activity is, because
Mm.
they have troubles of their own. Maybe one day they'll look and they'll see me, their pretty little daughter, but at this time they don't know me, and
Mm.
so that's what happens. And that's not those are not the exact words, but
Right.
when we think
Right.
about it, when we allow we childhood only comes once, and you
Mm.
Mhm.
cannot undo it. And
Nope.
when you become
Wrong.
a
No.
parent, that is your first priority,
Yeah.
not the relationship. Parenting, being that nurturer and taking care and loving that baby, and even when you're carrying that baby inside of you, because so many babies environments are damaging and destructive before they even come
And
into
come
this
into the
world.
world.
They
Yeah.
don't even
Right.
stand a chance. And
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
once they get here, the delicacy of them. And we know from 1 to 5, 1 to 6, right? That's where they
Mhm.
learn most
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
what they're going to
Yeah.
learn in life.
Yeah.
And so we
Yes.
got to
Yeah.
think about these
Yeah.
things. It's like
Yes.
what, and if it was
Yeah.
secondhand smoke, if it was drugs, or if it was
Mhm.
somebody else trying to hurt them, oh, it'll be hella hot water, right?
Right.
But
Mhm.
Right.
then we allowed them to be hostages
Yes.
inside of the place that's supposed to be the safest space in the whole wide world.
Lord have
And the two
mercy.
Yeah.
people that are supposed to protect them from
Oh
everything,
my gosh.
they're at
Right.
Holy
People they
War
trust.
together
Mhm.
inside
Yeah.
that house. And so it's like putting our babies
Yeah.
on a plane, flying them to Iraq or Iran, and to make them be little soldiers in a war, and they are
Mm.
not armed.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
Wow.
Now, Velvet, when you were pregnant with Ellie, did you experience even trauma at that time?
Yeah. I was physically abused during my pregnancy. Um, y'all are taking me like back, 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 back.
Back down memory lane.
So I'm
We
24.
old people.
So
Yeah.
I am the what y'all talking about right now. I am still a child in a sense, and my
Yes.
mom and my dad had a domestic. It was a DV situation between them two. I didn't necessarily see it because they for the most part they did keep it in their bedroom, but we all knew that there were problems,
Mhm.
and I didn't know I didn't know neither one of my parents when I was growing up, and I didn't have a chance to because by the time I was 11, they got a divorce, and then I had to become a woman.
Mhm.
And once that happened, by the age of 13, I was lost my virginity and looking for love in all the wrong places. And the main thing that I ever wanted to have in my life was my mom and my dad. That was destroyed before I could even conceptualize what it's like to have a mom and a dad. I was
Mhm.
conceived on the wrong foot.
Mm.
So, growing up as a young woman, I didn't have conversations, real conversations where my mom and my dad is like teaching me about real life. They're so caught up in each other, like, you did this, you did this, you did this, you did this. I did everything for myself. I can't say that my parents paid for me to graduate high school. I can't say that my parents collectively came together to even be cordial. to come to my high school graduation, or to show me off to college, or just be there when I needed them. I couldn't do no extracurricular activity, nothing, nothing. I was completely alone. No wonder why I ended up in a situation with a man, manipulated, confused, and thinking that abuse is okay. Like,
Mhm.
and when I realized that the only reason why I was in the situation with Eliana's dad so long was because the situation that I had from birth was broken. And that situation and that experience was gonna be used to heal me up out of my traumas from being a child, like my childhood traumas. And when I realized that Eliana was being neglected, that was never the vision that I had for my children, ever. So when that finally clicked into my mind, I was like, nah, I'd rather be a single mom and take care of Eliana myself and be honest with her. Not
Mhm.
sugarcoat it, but be honest with her why she will never see her dad again. I
Mhm.
would rather live in that reality than to be
Mhm.
physically abused and then you grow up messed up too.
Mhm.
And the entire time he abused me, and I never real like I don't understand why it didn't dawn on me that like when a man hits you, it's not okay. But my life is so intense that I remember getting beat one time for not washing the dishes. Mind you, I'm the only one washing the dishes, taking care of 5 kids up underneath me, still trying to be a teenager, and my parents are never around to console me,
Mhm.
to help me to I'm constantly asking questions and everybody's shutting off my emotions. Everybody's shutting me off like I never existed. But
Mhm.
but this is my experience and my family hates me. Hates me because I share what I went through. I wasn't
Mhm.
exempt. I wasn't
Right.
exempt. But my certain things I can't even say because it's so deep. Like
Mhm.
I'm still on the outskirts of my family. My
Mhm.
family still don't know me. And it got worse because I was in that situation with that man. And
Mhm.
so now I have to live in a reality where I have to teach my children that no matter if they blood or not, you could always authentically be you. And
Mhm.
never succumb yourself to what somebody else think that you should be because you'll always be acting like somebody else and you'll never be truly satisfied with who you are.
Yep.
Yep. And
Yeah.
you are so wise beyond your age.
Yeah,
Yes.
really,
Yeah.
she is.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes. Yes. Yes.
so just know that. And definitely, I like I said, I know that God has his hand on you for
Yes, and
sure.
it's yeah, and
Yeah.
it's okay. It's okay to be different. When I was 10 years old, I asked my grandmother who was my real family, who was my real parents, because I was nothing like everybody else. And I talked out loud, right, Taurus, about DV. I make
Yeah.
no bones about it. You know, my younger sister, she has
Yeah.
never talked. We have never talked about what happened in our house on that night, right? I don't push her to talk about it, but I will not let her make me suppress because I suppressed for those 12 years, and I am going to
Right.
talk about it. And even in the police department, I talk about it because I'm supposed to talk about it. And so, and when
Right.
God gives you your voice, that is your voice, and he
Right.
gives all of us a ministry, and it's not about what anybody else thinks. And even like with me and my dad, my uncle used to say, "You too smart to be an Adam." So when he was dying, he told his daughter, who was supposed the man was supposed to be my dad, and she was so happy. She said, "Carol, we're gonna go find him." I said, "Pump your brakes, pump your brakes, pump your brakes." She
Mhm.
said, "Well, you don't want to know." I said, "No, I don't." I said, "Because either that person knows about me and has not tried to reach out to me and get to know me." I said, and maybe they don't know about me, so I'm not going to go wreck somebody else's house. I said, when I get in here, I had no control over, but as how I move forward, my mother's not living
Right.
and Mr. Adams is not living. I'm not going to anybody else and to intervene or to try to ask any questions. I know what I'm supposed to do. God has made me healthy and whole, and I'm going to proceed like this. So what other people think is really irrelevant. And
Mhm.
Right.
you're gonna get to that place, and you write and you journal because you really need to get all of that out. And like for me, I had to cook, I had to clean, I had to wash, I had to do everything. But And my mother had trained me because she knew there was going to be a day when she wouldn't be here anymore. So at 17, I had to become the head of our household because we didn't go live with other people because my uncles were beating their wives as well. So we stayed at our
Mm,
house. I
mm,
paid the bills just like they were still
Mm.
there. The landlord had no idea that it was just us. Just I applied for our Social Security. So the things that you have experienced is to prepare you for your journey. So
Mm.
That's
every
right.
day, every second is a
That's right.
lesson that you're going to be able to reach back and use. So just know that. And you were not created to please other people, or even to care about what other people think about you. Your life experience is your life experience. Five kids could live in the exact same household, and everybody has their own different idea as to how things went in that household. And that's how we are made. And that's how
Mm-hmm.
we grow up. So you be you. And you are just an amazing young person, and just continue to thrive and to be honest and to be true to yourself.
Amen.
Yeah, I'm
Amen.
honored to be here with you all. Like
We're
it's good.
honored to have
It's,
you.
it's good
Yes,
to sit
You
yes.
amongst
building
people who understand.
you building your own toolbox. You building your own
Yes.
toolbox, and it's gonna be enough room there for you to use everything as
Yeah.
you go forward.
all right now. Mm, mm, mm,
I
mm.
appreciate those words.
Yes.
Okay.
And
And I
God
and,
got
and this
you.
is why I don't be
You earned
quiet.
it.
This is why I sit. This is why I've held my position in my identity in Christ, because the DV experience and the perpetrator. That's a new word I learned. I like that. Thank you for that. But the perpetrator, they will try to silence you
Hmm.
for good. They will
Hmm.
try to like cut you so bad and so deep that you never want to talk about it again. But I'm the right person. Cut
Talk
me deep
about it.
because I'm about to bleed a river.
Talk about it. There you
You
go.
understand? And
Yes.
and
Yes.
somebody close to me was like, cause from my situation being so public, anybody who is my friend or is close to me or anything like that, they'll dissect that person and they'll want to know who that person is and what their talents are and all that. And somebody close to me and they were like, "What does this have to do with me? Like, why
Mm,
do they keep talking about me?" I said, "You are direct to me. That is
mm,
gonna happen, and because that happens, most people don't want to go through the healing process.
Right. Yep.
They want everything ready made, honey. This is
mm,
Hmm.
not, honey. This is handmade. Okay,
mhm, mhm.
you
Yeah,
got to
Yeah,
stick with me.
that's
Either,
right.
and if you
Yeah,
don't stick with me, then you're not gonna come with me. Period.
right,
yeah.
Mm-mm.
right.
Because
Mm-mm.
where I'm going is something.
Definite
Is to a
process.
way greater
Yeah,
place.
Hmm.
yeah.
That
In
is
order
so
to,
true.
Okay.
yep, in order
It's
to
a
heal,
journey.
you have to hurt. You got
All
to
right.
get through that pain. You got to get through it.
That's
Mhm,
right.
I used to get a basket at work at like every other week. I worked at Charter Health for 7 years. And my coworkers used to say, "Does your husband have a brother?" Because honestly, Dr. Craig, you get a basket of fruit every other week or at least once a month. And I say it because he just spit in my damn face everywhere I go. They don't know that. They just see, and they was like, "Oh my
Yes.
They don't know
God,"
that part.
Yep.
They're looking
Mhm,
right?
at the
And it's
gift.
like, and they may say
Yeah,
to me, they said,
yeah.
"Dr. Craig got
They
another
don't know the hell you
basket."
go through it on, right?
mhm,
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
And
Hmm.
they've been married for 14 years and she gets these
mhm.
baskets every
yeah,
month.
Mm.
I was
And
Yeah.
like,
and
yep, so that
and
means
people,
something happened.
right,
Okay.
and people, you gotta, people have to understand that. And like for me, going back to my childhood, and like that's how my dad was. He bought my mother everything she asked for, right? So
Mm,
me right now, if it's Valentine's Day, you can buy me some flowers. If my birthday, you can buy me something, and it's Christmas. Other than that, don't buy me nothing. And you don't have to
Hmm.
buy me anything because I'm gonna go to work and I'm gonna buy my own. I'm
Yep.
gonna
mhm,
I'm gonna do for myself. And so
mhm,
that's one of those things is that like when people see those things, they think everything is just wonderful. And it's like
mhm.
no,
everything is
it's
okay.
not.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
Yeah.
You know,
yeah. Oh,
like
he's a great guy.
Yeah.
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Say,
But we take the baggage with us because, like Mr. Brooks just said, should God bless me with somebody, if they try to give me directions, if they try to give me directions, why you go to work that way? Why don't you go? I sometimes I just blow. I don't need you to tell what you think I had. How you think I got to work before you came into my life? And they be like, "Baby, I was It's
Right.
crazy. And I had to catch myself, you know.
Mhm.
So I
Mhm.
mean, it's baggage, you know.
It,
It's
Yeah.
because
it,
that ain't his fault that I don't want to be told
right.
because I've been told what to think, what my opinion should be. The
Mhm.
biggest fight I remember me and Brian got into was I got a clock when we got married, and it had my Lynn is my middle name, and it had Lynn on the clock. Somebody in my family gave me this clock, and Brian said, "Where do you think we should put it? In the middle, or should we, should it be off to the?" And so I said, "Don't put it in the middle. That's so predictable. Let's put it off to the side." And all of a sudden, he went off. That shit looks stupid. And we got into this, and I said, "But you asked me, and that's my opinion. But that's a dumb opinion." And I'm like, oh my God, he laid me out because I said the clock should. And it was, I
Wow.
mean, I remember one day he came in the house and I was trying to clean and have the meal already made when he came in the house this day. And he came in the house and he said, "You don't see that grease right there on the counter?" And I was like,
Cool.
"I've been cooking and
Mm.
slaving," and he talking about a spot of grease on the counter.
Mm, mm, mm,
And I
mm,
said,
mm.
"What?" And then when I said what, he thought I was trying to be smart. He grabbed the back of my neck
Mm,
and like you do a dog, he put my nose in it and he said, "That spot right there."
mm, mm, mm,
Put
mm,
my nose in it.
mm,
I'm like, how can somebody love you and do
mm,
that?
Right.
I don't.
Right.
mhm,
Right.
That
Right.
don't make sense. And of course he overreacted when he
Mm.
wanted to have sex. Well,
mhm,
baby, I just overreacted. I just
mm.
overreacted. I was like, if I hit that one more, now that is something. If somebody say that to me, y'all, I'm going to lose it. Mr. Brooks, you're gonna have to come get me.
That's
You're
a
gonna be like, what happened to Dr. Craig? Because
Mm.
somebody said that word, that phrase, the no phrase.
Oh my gosh. But remember, do y'all remember the movie Perfect Guy?
Yes,
Oh, I don't remember.
Everybody needs to
Who
see that.
put up
That
on
is
we
the
do.
that
Yes,
is the movie that
Carol, I seen it. I think it.
yes. Everybody needs to see that. Need to
Yeah,
see
Okay, the
that.
perfect guy.
the
Okay.
perfect guy.
Perfect Guy. Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes.
Yes,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Is it on
Mm-mm.
Tubi? Is it on the
You believe
TV
in that,
app
bro?
Tubi? Do you know?
Uh,
I do.
it's kind of
Okay.
old. It's a much old. What is about about 7 years
Mm-hmm.
old? But Google it, and it should come up because it's older.
Yeah,
But that
I'll go.
is a
The
oh
perfect
my
guy.
gosh, yeah, the
the
Perfect
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 guy.
guy.
perfect guy,
I want to see
Okay.
perfect
that.
guy.
Hmm.
The
Yes,
perfect
Mhm.
yes,
guy.
yes, yes.
I
Oh
saw
my
that.
Okay.
lord.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm putting here.
I didn't know that was
See the
such a
movie.
thing.
See the movie. The perfect guy.
But
Yeah.
Who?
but
Wait
you
a
know
minute.
what,
Didn't
you
know.
guys, you
Guy.
know what, you know how this is so cool. Me, Carol, me, you, Mr. Brooks, and see, we just laughed about stuff that used to hurt.
Oh, what?
Like
Oh yeah.
I couldn't. There was a time when I couldn't laugh about that. That
Yeah.
wasn't
Yeah.
funny.
Hey,
But
Right.
but
No.
but
No.
now I have peace. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I don't walk into my little house and be worried. Is he gonna come home and be
Right.
mad or sad
Mm-hmm,
Mm-hmm.
or
mm-hmm,
want to have sex? None of which I want. I don't want to do nothing with him. I don't even want to be.
mm-mm.
I walk in the house and when I open the door, Jesus, like the spirit meets me. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like Ricky and Lucy. I'm
Right.
home. Hey Jesus, I'm home. You know what I mean? And there's peace because that's what meets me when I come through the door.
Yes.
And you can't
Yes.
pay for that.
Mhm.
No.
I
No.
don't. I
No.
don't.
No.
I
No. No.
don't. He
No.
make he
Mm-mm.
makes circles around me money wise, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But that dude don't have the peace that I have when I
That's
come in
right.
this
That's
house.
right.
Mhm.
You know,
That's
And
and
right.
my mother says, "That's you."
Don't do that,
I'd be
bro.
so glad to hear her voice. She'd be glad that I
Mm-hmm.
walked through the
Yeah.
door. You know,
Mm-hmm.
mhm.
you can't pay for that. And
No.
I'm
Right.
so
Mm-mm.
blessed. I have my children around me,
Mhm.
and
Mm-hmm.
they're very, very, very close to me, and they're
Mhm.
very protective. But I mean, just the way we love and laugh, like they're not kids that don't want to be around me.
Mhm.
Right.
My
Right.
youngest son is 27
Mhm.
years old, and if he's walking with me in the mall, he will hold my hand. He don't
Mhm.
care what nobody say about it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mhm.
what? That's
Mhm.
right. I'm holding my mother's hand. That's a blessing.
Yes.
You know what I
Yeah, it
mean?
Mm-hmm.
is.
That's a
Yep.
blessing.
It gets
Mhm.
better.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm,
Yep.
mm,
Yep. Yep.
mm.
Yep.
Yeah.
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 See,
Well,
just
does anyone have
overall
any?
conversation with the right people. Just overall
Right.
Yeah,
conversation with
Definitely.
the right people. It gets
yeah,
better.
Right.
Laughter is always good.
Good for the
yes.
soul. Good for
It
the
is.
It
spirit.
is. It
Yeah.
Yes.
is.
It is. It
Now,
Yeah.
is.
if
It is.
if each of you can just give one last word, uh, thought And we'll start with Mr. Brooks.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm just thankful to be on online with you guys. The young lady was phenomenal. I know Carol, and I knew what I was gonna get from Carol. I appreciate the invite, and
Mm.
Dr. Craig. It gets better. It gets
Yes, sir.
better. You got great kids.
Yes, I do.
They know mama struggle. They're gonna roll with you come hell or high water.
Yes.
You know, so you just keep looking up. Greater is coming for you. All right.
Amen. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So it's just that it was a good learning experience for me. Being the only guy on here, just listen to the latest.
Mm-hmm.
I learned something. I'm gonna look for that movie, Carol, The Perfect Guy. I got to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't know it was such a thing. All
Oh
right.
yeah.
But, yeah, but it's good. And we all can take some from something everybody that said on here. Everybody can take
Yep.
something. So whatever works for you, let it work for you.
Yep.
You know, and continue to share, continue to laugh, and just live your best life from this point on. All
Yep.
right.
Right.
Yep.
Again, thanks
Amen.
for the invite.
Amen.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. And Officer Adams.
um, well, for me, it's the spiritual journey, right? And understanding the craft, of God's work and being a vessel, and not being afraid to be who he has orchestrated me to be or to be, right?
Hmm.
Because God sends you in directions, and we be banging our head up against a brick wall. And he's like, I told you to go down Curry Street, and why you keep going down the wrong street? So,
Hmm.
understanding that for me, and not being ashamed or afraid to articulate and to say the things that some people are not at a space to say, because it's growth, right? We all grow,
Hmm.
and we get to, when it comes down to sharing, how much to share, how much not to share, what to share, and when to share it. So spirituality would be my, would be my word.
Okay. And Dr. Craig.
Um, just taking what happens and growing from it. So I've learned in my later years to always see where what happens to me lines up like in God's word. Like, because every single thing that has happened to me, it lines up in the
Mm-hmm.
word of God. And when I don't understand something, I remember that the Romans, what is it, 8:28, all things work together for good of them who love God and are called according to his purpose in Christ Jesus. So I always tell people this. I say, I'm looking at this little snapshot right here, and that's all I see. And I don't get it. I don't understand it. The whys, why me? And I say, but I know God can see that whole 11 by 14. And
Hmm.
somehow this what happened is going to work for my good some kind of way.
Yes, it is.
And I
Hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
at the age of 60, I've seen it happen over and over again. When I got breast cancer, it doesn't run in my family. Nobody don't have it in my family. It's not genetic. It probably had more to do with stress than anything else. And I was just like, I have a 5-year old, a 6-year old, and a 8-year old, and I don't want to die and somebody else raise them. And God blessed me through that whole process. And I'm a breast cancer survivor. But guess what? In 2013, I was Susan G. Coleman's breast cancer survivor of the year. And Susan G. Coleman is usually the face of white women. But
Hmm.
Dr. Craig was the breast cancer survivor of the year for Susan G. Coleman.
Hmm.
Jill Biden, before she became the first lady, asked me personally. She said, "Can you do me a favor?" And she said, "And go to the White House." And she said, "I want you to take a picture by every tree you can." And she said, "And send the pictures to me. I want to use them for a photo op for something." Because she's always been an advocate for breast cancer awareness. And it was like, hold up, wait. Okay. So why did she ask me? Because her husband's press secretary, who is a gay man, liked the outfit that I had on at the ceremony for being the breast cancer survivor of the year. And he told her about me. And she gave me an open invitation to go to the White House and take pictures
Mm.
and send her the pictures. So I mean, you see what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yes.
Life gave me lemons, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
God showed me how to make lemonade. So
That's
now
right.
I stopped saying that. Like, why me? I've always
Yeah.
been, because he got something
I
better
see.
for me, and he's taking this. He's taking my pain and incorporating it into my purpose. And somehow, some way,
Mm.
it's going to be used for my greater good. So that is my biggest thing. I don't question the bad stuff no more, and I don't lament it anymore because it's going to be used and it's going to work out for my greater good some kind of way. If you hadn't told me I was going to take a picture standing between Joe Biden and Jill Biden in front of the fireplace at their house, right? So she could use it for her breast cancer awareness campaign. If I didn't have breast cancer, she wouldn't have been able to use me to do it, right? I'm just saying,
Mhm.
you just never know where the pain is going to lead you. So that's my thing. You just got to take it on the chin
Mhm.
because without you even knowing how God is going to use it, you just got to trust Him. So obedience is better than sacrifice. One of the
Mm.
shortest scriptures in the Bible, one of the shortest ones. But I just gotta obey what He tell me to do. I gotta do what He tell me to go. I
That's
gotta
right.
go, and then I let
That's
Him
right.
work out all the rest of it. You know,
Mhm.
I
That's right.
I, I, I let Him carry that on His shoulders. And my favorite scripture is it's on my white coat. It's Philippians 4:11, and it says, "Not that I speak in respect of want, for I have learned in whatsoever state I find myself, there too to be content." So I'm just gonna be happy. I'm just gonna do me. And y'all, it's so much easier. Like the way I used to stress out about stuff, it's just, hey, please, it's so much easier. I have to put my wig on in the morning because I ain't got no hair. I gotta put eyebrows on because I ain't got no eyebrows. I gotta put a prosthesis in because I had a mastectomy. But when I get it together, oh, let me tell you, you see what I'm saying? And so instead, I used to wouldn't even look at myself below my neck because I didn't want to see the little itty bitty one, right? I didn't want to see that one. But now, instead of looking at it that way, I'm like, I can be whoever I want to be. If I want to be short and sassy today, if I want to be curly
Mm.
today, if I before I came on the program, I had to change wigs because I went grocery shopping and I had sweated out the one that I had on. I looked like Raggedy Ann, and so I had, but hey, and I laughed about it, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna put another ponytail. And so I just always look at my glass like it's half full instead of like it's half empty. And my life is so much better that way than when I used to worry about every little thing. You understand what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Yep.
All right, thank you. And now Velvet.
I agree.
Mhm.
I really, really agree with everybody said on the panel. Like for first and foremost, the number one thing that I know for sure is that there are prophecies being um, prophesized right now,
Yep.
like
Mhm.
in
Yep.
today's time. And I know for sure that God is using his children to vindicate his name in
Mhm.
whatever way that is possible. And just like Dr. Craig said, obedience is way better than sacrifice. So sometimes we don't know exactly why we went through
Right.
what we went through. Sometimes we don't, cuz if you go to my past and my friends who was connected with me and stuff like that, they'll tell you I would never let a man do that to me ever. And
Mhm.
they sit there and they don't even know who they're looking at because they watched me let this man abuse me to nothingness, right? But sometimes we don't know the whole story. And I know that God's children, God has a purpose for us, and He has to take us through interesting trauma because it's pretty much
Mm-hmm.
what the world, what's going on collectively in the world. You know, there's but in the beginning of the live, Miss Cece was reading how many people, how on average it is for people to get abused,
Kimber,
and how many
you
people
give me
are
the
getting
water.
abused, and their stories are
Give me
not
the
even
water.
heard, their stories are not even told.
Yep.
And you know, God is using His children to bring that up and out into the world. Like, look at this aspect. We keep talking about being vegan, but nobody talking about these people being abused. We
Mhm.
keep talking about being what do you call it?
Thank you.
Black excellence and being this conscious community, but we're not talking about the trauma that lies within this conscious community.
Mhm.
That lies within this black excellence. We can't get over that. We can't just skip past that and act like nothing happened and just burn a whole bunch of sage and lay crystals out around in a circle around our feet. That's not gonna get us nowhere.
Mhm.
We have to really dive deep into the trauma that we've been through mentally.
Mhm.
This is why counseling is important. I have took
Amen.
counseling.
Amen.
I
Amen.
couldn't follow through with counseling only because I had to move from state to state. But I could tell you one thing: the more I get on my knees and I pray, and the more that I'm obedient to the Lord's word when He's talking to me, I mean, ain't no counselor could come and bring me up out of what I was in, but the Lord. Like, but the Lord, like the we we was be sitting in counseling, and because of what I went through, the counselor will be going in the Bible reading for himself or herself, like trying to understand where they have to go spiritually. Because when we're going through, I don't know about 10 years ago or 1,000 years ago. I know about today, and we
Mhm.
go through things for our spiritual development. We have
Yep.
to
And growth.
spiritually
Yep.
mature
Yep.
Absolutely.
as a
Absolutely.
people,
Yeah.
no matter what age you are. And this is why it's important
Yeah.
for all of us to keep speaking up and keep speaking out, because we learn from any and everything in life. And God wants us to be in more union, more communion. He wants us to come together like this and talk about this, you know?
Mhm.
And so I encourage Dr. Craig to continue to get on social media and speak up about it, and Miss Cece keep doing these lives, because what we don't realize, well, I won't say we don't realize it, because a lot of us do realize it, but when you really think about it, everything is targeted on social media now. We just went through a pandemic where they had everybody sitting inside, nobody going to no club for real, ain't nobody going and
Mhm.
do the things that they used to do. Everybody is in their phone, and
Mhm.
what they're looking at, YouTube videos, they're looking at live stream videos, they're looking at real talk, and these TV shows that's on the TV now, those shows
Mhm.
are boring. They're looking for
Mhm.
something else. People in the world are looking for something else to watch.
Mhm. That's true.
Thousands of people watch DV go on just alone on social media. That is the
Mhm.
perfect place we need to be, because everybody is on the internet, you know?
Mhm.
And this was the revelation that, came to me in my life, because my life had been blessing on social media for the longest. I can't
Mhm.
get away from it. I go
Mhm.
to Walgreens and I got my mask up, and people are like, that's velvet. I had to move to a place where nobody knows me, just off of the strength to keep myself safe from,
Mhm.
harassment and stuff like that.
Yes.
I gotta let the world know what's going on with me, because if at any moment I come up missing, we gonna know who the culprit is.
For
Yep.
sure. For sure.
That's
Yep.
right. That's right.
For sure. So
And I
I.
just think I just think the older, the more, I want to say older, but more seasoned
Mhm.
women and men that's stepping up and speaking up, because I'm 24, like I said, I still have a lot more wisdom to gain before I'm to a peak where I can start really teaching my children, I'm learning from what Mrs. Adams was talking about. I'm learning from what Dr. Craig is talking about, and what Cece is talking about, and what Mr. Brooks is talking. I'm learning from y'all. That's why see me sitting over here in the cut, like I'm listening to the gems that's falling. And
Mhm.
these
Yeah.
young children don't have that. They
Mhm.
don't.
That's,
I
mm-mm.
was
Yeah.
a product of that, you know. And so
Mhm.
I thank y'all. I appreciate y'all.
Well, I want to tell you,
Well.
Velvet, if you don't mind, I want to tell you I'm teaching and I'm talking to my young nephews, my young little cousins, any little guys, young guys I can come in contact. I'm trying to teach them and show them how to treat females like yourself. Okay,
Praise
all right,
God, because
at
let
a
me
Amen.
young
tell you,
age.
it's looking
All right.
scarce out here for a woman like me. You know?
For all of us, girl.
Yes, it is. Not just for you,
That's
honey.
Mi-
For
right.
all of us.
Mrs. Adams. I'm, I'm with Miss Adams.
How to
I'm
treat
like,
a
you know
lady.
what?
Oh goodness.
That's funny.
I appreciate you, Mr. Brooks. So
No
we need
problem.
more
No
men like
problem.
you.
No problem.
Yes, we
Definitely
do.
more
No
men to
problem. Thank you.
teach.
Thank you.
Definitely,
Thank you.
because it's
Yeah,
not just teach the
you got
young
the Carl
ladies.
said it.
Yeah,
Carl said it. You got to teach the men and ladies. You got to do it.
Yeah.
That's my
definitely.
mission, girl.
Yep, we got it, darling. We got it. We have to get together. And I didn't talk about, I have a foundation. It's called the Carol Adams Foundation. So y'all can look us up on
Awesome.
Facebook
Okay.
and also a
Awesome.
website, to help women,
Awesome.
men, and children who've been impacted. We do summer camps, we do peer support, we do parenting classes, we do girls groups, just everything we can. And
Mhm.
like we talk about the kids, I help with the intervene with the parents, but also creating another world for the kids and giving
Mhm.
them an opportunity that I didn't have, to escape all the craziness. We go
Right.
flying, we do golf, we do tennis, and all at no cost to my parents, so that the kids can get out and have a good time, so that
Praise
Wow.
God.
okay.
That's wonderful. And Mr. Brooks, your foundation website is scrolling across the bottom of the screen. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yeah, I've seen it. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. So,
Appreciate it.
I am just grateful and thankful that you all came on and shared, and I hope that it was very informational
It
to
was.
those that did listen, and that, whoever is having an issue, there is the National DV hotline telephone number that I have scrolling across the screen as
Mm-hmm.
well. But we are just so grateful that you all was open to share, because like I said, so many times that we're sweeping things up under the rug, and you go in people's homes and you see these big mountain of a rug, and it looks like a mountain because they done swept so many things up under it.
Mhm. Mhm.
and and nobody's getting help, nobody's getting healed.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what it's about. It's about sharing, because they always say, as you go through something, a lot of times you don't understand why, but when you realize, okay, this is a test, turns to a
Yep.
testimony. It is pain,
That's right.
turns to
Yeah.
purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing is that not only are you going through it for yourself, but you're going through it for your brother and your sister,
Yeah.
and that's
That's
when you
right. That's right.
reach back and pull them up and help them through.
Amen.
And
That's
that's what it's all about.
right.
So we're going to close here now. And again, I just thank you all, and many blessings unto you all. And Velvet, I want to tell you, initially, I know the hesitancy, because her life was on social media. A lot of people wanted to use her, but I assured her I would just say that she's a young lady, and she could remain anonymous, because I didn't want her to feel that I was going to try to capitalize on any way from her pain. But I knew that she has a story that I wanted people to hear, especially young women, because I have an organization, Women of Virtue, and we deal with you from the cradle to the grave. And our thing is empowering young women and all women, and really every individual,
Yes.
because we need to share with one another, but we need to also strengthen one another and
Yeah.
empower one another. And so that's one thing that I wanted to happen with this panel, so that people can be empowered to move forward, to push through, and to become
Stay
happy,
strong.
healthy, and whole. Definitely.
Cecilia,
Thank you,
can
Miss
can
Cecilia.
kids call the 1-800 uh
Anyone can call.
because sometimes they want to call somebody and talk to somebody.
I'm
Yeah.
sure if they call that number, they can refer them
Up
to.
to right, okay,
Right.
organization. Because
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah. Yep.
okay,
Okay.
okay.
So again, thank you all again. You
Thank
all be
you.
Thank you,
blessed. We're
Miss
going to
Cecilia.
stay in touch. Thank you all. You all are wonderful, and love you all. Have a
Love
great
you
night.
too.
Carol, Carol,
And yes,
Wakanda,
well, yes, yes, Wakanda. That's what it is. We
Wakanda, forever.
That's right.
See y'all later.
Wakanda
Okay,
forever.
bye, Mr. Brooks.
Yes. Bye
Bye
bye.
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 Thank
Okay, bye
you.
bye. Be
Y'all be
Bye
blessed.
safe. Everybody be safe, okay?
Good
bye.
night.
Bye bye.
Okay,
Okay,
bye
bye
All
bye.
right. Bye bye.
Come to the
Yeah,
purple
can
couch. Yes, it's time that we are speaking